Chapter 5348. I saw something strange here just now. Why is it gone now? 3 heavenly Dharma cultivators came to a mountain range, searching for the strange phenomenon that they had just discovered. I clearly saw all the power of heaven and earth converging here just now. It's like the birth of some kind of supreme treasure. The 3 of them searched the surroundings again and again, but still found nothing. After searching for another hour, they all had looks of regret on their faces. It seems that this trip was for nothing. One of the heavenly Dharma sighed. It's normal to find nothing. Another comforted. Not everyone is like that Zichin. He's lucky and has good battle strength to get the immortal essence fragment. Not to mention the immortal essence fragment. Just the heavenly Dharma cultivators that he killed is enough for him to make a fortune. Sai, it's useless to be envious. Let's go and see if there are any other discoveries. The 3 of them quickly left the place. A moment later, light flashed, and Zichin withdrew from the formation and walked out of the cave. At this moment, a powerful aura surged around him. He had just broken through and had not adapted to his own aura, so he could not completely suppress it. He was now at the 3rd level of the heavenly Dharma realm. With the help of the immortal essence fragment, he rose another level in a short time. However, Zichin could not smile at this moment because of the conversation between the 3 of them. When he escaped, he used teleportation more than a dozen times. He was probably hundreds of thousands of miles away. Why were the 3 of them still talking about him? Could it be that he was already so famous that he could affect such a far place? Or could it be that these dozen teleportations did not actually leave this area? But whether it was the former or the latter, Zichin could not continue to stay here. Continuing to teleport was the only way. Zichin took out a jade talisman, activated it, and disappeared. He did not have much on him, but he had a lot of jade talismans. This time, he teleported 8 times in a row. These teleportations were all aimless, so it was up to him where he was teleported. If he could reach North Desert City, Zichin would not have any objections. After a few more teleportations, Zichin, who appeared again, was suddenly stunned. He saw a very familiar mountain range. In this mountain range, he saw a cave. It was the place where he cultivated a few days ago. How is this possible? After a dozen teleportations, he was back to his original location. Zichin's eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost. He had never encountered such a situation before, nor had it ever existed. Who would return to their original location after teleporting more than 10 times? Even if it was a coincidence, it couldn't be so coincidental. Therefore, he teleported again. This time, he did not use the jade talisman. Instead, he used the spirit design to lock in a direction. This way, the probability of going to North Desert City was even higher. After another 10 teleportations, Zichin had expended quite a bit of energy. Looking at the flat ground, he finally let out a sigh of relief. It seems that what happened earlier was really a coincidence. Zichin smiled faintly and walked forward. After walking for more than 10 miles, he was completely stunned. Mountains appeared in front of them. This is impossible. Zichin turned into a streak of light and moved forward. A moment later, he saw the cave again. His face changed greatly as he looked around vigilantly. Are they from Titan City? To be able to seal off a part of the world and prevent him from escaping. He believed that the heavenly law was unable to do such a thing. That would be an immortal technique. Did the immortal technique of Titan City really come? Zichin's face turned pale. He was in big trouble now. But thinking about it carefully, something did not seem right. He had only killed Mo Yunsong, who was at most a 2nd level heavenly law. Why would the other party send an immortal technique? An immortal technique was rare in the wasteland. Why would they be so bored to deal with a heavenly law like him? In another place, Meng Cheng and the other 4 were preparing to leave. As expected, they did not gain anything. But they were not that disappointed because they had expected it. Now, they were just dealing with their family. After going to a few more places, they would return to North Desert City. I wonder when Chen will go to North Desert City. If he goes early and I haven't returned yet, I'll miss it. Mang Cheng thought of Chen and smiled. Why? Are you going back on your word? Someone next to him laughed. Mang Cheng said, How is that possible? It's just a drink. I, Mang Cheng, will not go back on my word. I think that Chen is very pleasing to the eye. If he is willing, he can even be a guest in my house. Are you trying to recruit a consecrator? Or are you, Mang Cheng, a thief? They all burst into laughter. They had seen Chen's combat strength. Once he grew up, there would be no problem for him to be a consecrator in their family. Yuan Kuei, who was walking forward, suddenly stopped and his expression changed. What's wrong? They all looked at Yuan Kuei. Yuan Kuei said in a deep voice, We seem to have been wandering here. What? They were stunned. Mang Cheng said coldly, Who is so bold to block our way? Yuan Kuei shook his head. It doesn't seem to be man-made. As soon as the sentence came out, their expressions changed, and they all had a guess in their hearts. Mang Cheng exclaimed, Could it be an ancient technique fragment? Ancient technique fragments really exist? They were all from big families, so they were naturally knowledgeable. Not to mention that no one had such ability, even if they did, who would dare to target the 5 of them. Only the energy of an ancient technique fragment can affect the surrounding environment. Yuan Kuei's eyes flickered. It seems that this time it's real. Where should we go to look for it? Mang Cheng looked around. His soul power had already spread out, and his expression was also extremely excited. Ancient technique fragments had been the world's supreme treasure since ancient times. No matter how big your family was or how powerful you were, you would all be jealous. Let's split up first. If you find anything, immediately send a message. The 5 of them scattered on the spot. The space in this area was affected, but not everyone could discover that they were wandering in this area. Chen had always thought that this was man-made. After running forward for dozens of miles, he suddenly retreated, because he thought of a problem. Since the other party could seal the space, they must be waiting for him at the edge. At this moment, he would definitely be in danger if he ran out rashly. But it was different if he turned back. If he went to the central area, the other party should not be there. In this way, he could buy some time. At most, he would find another place to hide. Chen, who turned back, concluded that this was definitely the work of Titan City's immortal technique. Not long after, Chen saw a storm. The storm was rolling with a vast aura. Immortal spirit fragment. Chen's eyes suddenly lit up. He already had experience in obtaining immortal spirit fragments. His soul power instantly spread out, and no one appeared within 30,000 feet. Swish! He went forward without hesitation. If he found something, it would be a huge gain. Chen approached the storm. Without any hesitation, he charged in. The moment he entered the storm, he raised his head and looked at the top, but he did not see any immortal spirit fragments. He took out the stone sword and pointed it at the sky. Chi! The storm was split into 2, and there was no immortal spirit fragment in it. Chen felt a little regretful. In his soul perception, traces of others appeared. After the storm disappeared, some of these people stopped, but some continued to move forward. Chen did not stop and continued to rush forward. Stop. Hand over the immortal spirit fragment. Someone tried to stop Chen. Chen held the stone, sword in his hand, and swung it forward. Chi! The heavenly law that blocked his way was directly cut in half. This was a 3rd-level heavenly law, the same realm as Chen. But facing Chen's sword, he could not react in time. When the others saw this, they all stopped and looked at Chen in shock. Until Chen disappeared, no one stood out. On the contrary, there was a portion of them who fought to the death because of that 3rd stage realm spoils of war. Not long after, Chen encountered a second storm. This time, more than 10 people discovered it at the same time. Chen rushed in and extended his soul power. The storm formed a cutting force, but this time it was unable to completely cut off Chen's soul power. After searching for the immortal spirit fragment last time, Chen's soul power was already incomparably tough. Still nothing. The storm dissipated with a loud bang. Over a dozen heavenly laws stood in the air, guarding against each other. They had never seen before what the immortal spirit fragment looked like. At this moment, they were all guessing if it was silently obtained by someone else. Chen turned around and left. The moment he moved, he was immediately locked onto by everyone. Someone among them recognized Chen and did not dare to make a move. Back then, when Chen used 2 great forbidden spells, there were many people watching from the periphery. That power shook people's hearts and souls, unforgettable for a long time. 100,000 feet away, space distorted. A third storm appeared. Another one. Everyone's eyes lit up and they all headed towards that storm. This also included Chen. It was just that Chen felt somewhat strange, because it had not been long and he actually discovered 3 storms. Although there was no harvest, the frequency of storms appearing was a little too fast. This time there was still nothing. These people seemed to be used to it too, turning around and leaving, no longer confronting each other. A quarter of an hour later, Chen found another storm. Just as he was considering whether to go over and take a look, he suddenly felt a special and familiar aura. It's the immortal spirit fragment. Chen's eyes lit up and he immediately went forward. As expected, after entering the storm, he saw the immortal spirit fragment at the top. This was really a heaven-sent opportunity. Chen was extremely excited. Chen was familiar with the way. When he neared, he used his soul power and directly took away the immortal spirit fragment. As the storm disappeared, everyone was stunned and then looked toward Chen. He was holding the immortal spirit fragment. Everyone's eyes shone with greed. After Chen easily killed the 2 4th-stage realm cultivators, the others all fled. After taking away the immortal spirit fragment, Chen began to go deeper. During this period, storms appeared one after another, but there was no immortal spirit fragment inside. As soon as he walked, he reached the depths. During this period of time, he encountered countless storms, but there was no harvest until Chen saw the end of his vision. That was a storm that ran through the entire heaven and earth. The space in front of him seemed to be torn apart by the storm, and a huge black hole appeared. In the sky, there were many Heaven Dharma realm cultivators. On the ground, there were also countless Dharma extermination realm cultivators. Almost everyone in this area had appeared here. Chen looked forward, and his eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. In the black storm, the number of immortal spirit fragments was actually no less than 10. They were distributed in different places, flickering with a bright and dazzling light. But Chen soon discovered that these people's attention was not on those immortal spirit fragments. Moving his gaze, Chen saw a door through the storm. It was as if it led to an ancient land, surging with a vast and ancient aura. This is Chapter 5349. In the biggest storm, there were more than a dozen immortal essence fragments. However, everyone's attention was on a door. A door that appeared in the storm released an ancient aura. It made people think of the ancient law fragment. Chen thought that it was just an excuse from Titan City. He didn't expect it to be true. Chen looked around and saw Mengqing and the others. Mengqing also saw Chen and was stunned. "You haven't left yet? Aren't you a little too bold? Aren't you afraid that those people will join forces?" Yuan Kuei said. Maybe he wanted to leave but didn't have time. He looked at the door in the storm. "Our target is the ancient law fragment. After entering, don't waste time on the immortal essence fragments." "We know." Mengqing smiled and the other 3 nodded. Although the immortal essence fragments were precious, they were nothing compared to the ancient law fragment. Suddenly a shrill scream was heard. It was a heavenly law. He was wandering around the storm and accidentally got sucked in. His body was instantly disintegrated by the storm. This scene made everyone's expression change, especially those in the extermination realm. Their faces were ashen. Even a heavenly law died after getting sucked in, let alone them. They are all looking for the storm's movement pattern. Shifeng's voice came from behind Zichen. Zichen turned around and saw Shifeng, as well as Douglas and Joshua. He was slightly stunned that the three of them didn't leave. However, he soon understood. Originally, we had already left. However, for some unknown reason, we ended up here while walking, Shifeng explained. I'm about the same. Zichen looked ahead. There's a pattern to this storm? Shifeng said, it's sometimes strong and sometimes weak. We can enter when the storm is weak. It won't do you any good to stay with me now. At this moment, there were at least a dozen gazes that harbored ill intentions landing on Zichen. It's okay. They won't do anything to me, Shifeng said. Shifeng said, I'll protect Dogus and Joshua. Don't worry. Zichen nodded. He then walked forward, taking the initiative to put some distance between him and Shifeng. Those cold gazes followed Zichen as he moved. At this moment, more and more people came from all directions, attracted by the storm. Which one of you is Zichen? A cold voice suddenly sounded, and a group of people walked over. A powerful aura surged around the leader, and his eyes were extremely cold. He is Zichen. Leonard appeared in time to help guide the other party. He had long noticed Zichen, but there was no one around him, so he didn't dare to make trouble for him. Everyone's eyes instantly fell on Zichen. Some were puzzled, while others were astonished. Zichen turned around and looked at the person calmly. Are you Zichen? A group of 8 people, including Leonard, walked up to Zichen. It's me. Zichen responded indifferently. Do you know who I am? That person's eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. I don't know, and I don't want to know. Zichen's expression was still calm. My name is Mo Li, and I'm here for Mo Yunsong's death. Mo Li said coldly, do you want to go back with me obediently, or do you want me to break your legs and drag you back? Is it a tradition of your family to talk big? First there was Mo Yunling, then Mo Yunsong, each one more arrogant than the other. The former ran away like a stray dog, and the latter also wanted to run, but unfortunately he was killed by my sword before he could. Zichen retorted without holding back. Since he had already formed a grudge with the people of Titan City, there was no need to hold back. He would do whatever he wanted to do. You're courting death. Mo Li took a step forward, and the aura around him began to circulate. He was actually at the 6th level of Heaven Dharma. Zichen didn't show any weakness. Facing the pressure of this aura, he stood there without moving. I heard that you can break my Titan's divine power. Let me see. Mo Li struck out a palm, and a powerful aura circulated, heading straight for Zichen. Zichen clenched his fist, and golden light shone on it. Boom! The palm print dissipated, and Zichen slid back 100 feet. Seeing this, Mo Li said disdainfully, I really don't know where your confidence comes from. Zichen stabilized his body and said, Why don't we try again? Mo Li's eyes turned cold, and killing intent surged wildly around him. At this moment, someone whispered in his ear. Mo Li glanced at the storm in the distance and suppressed the anger in his heart. I'll let you live a little longer. With that, Mo Li walked forward. The people he brought with him glared at Zichen fiercely before following after him. Killing Zichen was important, but the ancient technique fragment was more important. This thing might not be encountered once in a lifetime. Mo Li came close to the storm and sensed the power of the storm at close range. His robes fluttered, and a strong wind blew past, landing on his body like wind blades. At the same time, it was accompanied by a powerful suction force, as if it was going to forcibly suck him in. Seems like I can give it a try. He didn't go in immediately, but turned his head to look in the direction of Yuan Kuei and the others, and took the initiative to cup his fists. Yuan Kuei nodded. Meng Qing and the others cupped their fists in response. Mo Li asked, I didn't expect the few of you to be here too. What do you think of this ancient technique fragment? Meng Qing said, What else can we think of it? This kind of opportunity will naturally be obtained by those with the ability and luck. Don't tell me we have to rely on our family's power to chase everyone away? Mo Li smiled and said, Since that's the case, I'll make a move first. This kind of rare opportunity, indeed, can't be missed. With that, he released his 6th degree realm aura, and with a tap of his foot, he charged into the storm. The moment he came into contact with the storm, he activated the power of Titan. The storm didn't tear Mo Li's body apart, and he entered the storm. Exclamations immediately rang out. Originally, everyone was waiting for an opportunity to enter, but now Mo Li broke the balance. A heavenly law rushed in anxiously, but the next moment he was torn apart by the storm. Hearing that miserable cry, everyone's expression changed. The power of the storm didn't weaken at all. Mo Li was able to enter by relying on his true strength. Mo Li doesn't follow the rules, so he can't wait any longer. Meng Qing looked at Mo Li in the storm. He didn't look for the immortal spirit fragment, but went towards the door of ancient techniques. Go! Yuan Kuei's figure flashed and entered the storm. A strange energy appeared around him, blocking the power of the storm. Following that, Meng Qing and the other 3 also rushed in. The 5 of them all entered the storm, which triggered another round of exclamations. To enter the storm, one must have a strong physique. Someone cried out, Core of the real body, it must be the core of the real body. This voice caused another round of exclamations. The core of the real body meant that the physical body's strength had reached an extreme, and this condition was extremely difficult. Its quantity was even rarer. Actually, among Meng Qing and the other 4, other than Yuan Kuei, the others didn't have the core of the real body, including Mo Li, but they all had powerful strength or bloodline, which could make up for the lack of physical body. For example, Mo Li relied on his Titan bloodline. There were also people who saw this and wanted to try to enter. However, perhaps because they were too confident, the moment they came into contact with the storm, they were directly strangled by the storm. Ziqin saw all of this. He didn't stop and directly rushed into the storm. Golden light flickered around his body, and the immortal golden body was activated. Golden light shone. This was the true core of the real body. Entering the storm, the cutting power around him was very terrifying, and his strength was quickly depleted. Ziqin looked up. Everyone was rushing towards the door of ancient techniques, and no one was interested in the immortal spirit fragment. Many thoughts flashed through Ziqin's mind. In the end, he rushed towards the immortal spirit fragment. So many people went, and their combat strength was not bad. Ziqin might not be able to get the ancient technique fragment, especially Meng Qing and the other 4. They were obviously in the same group. Just one of them had extraordinary combat strength, and the 5 of them together were extremely impressive. However, the immortal spirit fragment was different. It was right in front of him, and he could easily get it. Moreover, Ziqin had experience in this kind of thing. He rushed straight up. Humph, at least you know what's good for you. Mo Li turned his head and glanced at Ziqin. Seeing him rushing towards the immortal spirit fragment, he couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Go ahead. After I kill you, everything you have will be mine. The closer he got to the door of ancient techniques, the greater the pressure. He had to deal with it with all his strength, so his speed immediately decreased. Meng Qing also saw Ziqin. He shook his head slightly. Sometimes, being too rational can be very boring. However, he had to admit that Zichen's choice was actually correct. Instead of getting nothing, it was better to get the immortal spirit fragment first. After all, this thing was an absolute treasure. Don't talk too much. Fight against the storm with all your strength. The ancient technique fragment is extremely rare. In addition to strength, luck is also very important. Let's not be careless, Yuan Kuei reminded. At this moment, he activated the core of the real body and slowly approached the door of ancient techniques. Approaching the immortal spirit fragment, Zichen's speed was also affected, and he was not as fast as before. He looked down and saw a few more people coming in. Most of these people did not have the core of the real body, so the storm should have weakened. Buzz! Zichen pushed the immortal golden body to the extreme. At this moment, he absolutely could not hold back. If he delayed any longer, he would lose the immortal spirit fragment. Coming in front of the nearest immortal spirit fragment, Zichen released his soul power. He was familiar with the path, but this time it was slightly more difficult. Buzz! The immortal spirit fragment was activated and flew towards Zichen. One was in his hand. He glanced to the side. Yuan Kuei was already close to the door of ancient techniques. However, he could only choose one out of the two opportunities, so Zichen was not very disappointed. Among those who came in, some went to the door of ancient techniques, but more went for the immortal spirit fragment. They also knew their own weight. Previously, they had delayed for a while. At this moment, the others had already arrived at the place where the immortal spirit fragments were. However, some of them had not found the way to obtain it. Zichen quickly approached the second fragment and used his soul power to collect it. When Zichen collected the second immortal spirit fragment, he found that the power of the storm had weakened a lot. Swish! Swish! In the other directions, 5 immortal spirit fragments disappeared at the same time. At this moment, there were only 7 immortal spirit fragments left. The others rushed towards the last 7 immortal spirit fragments and fought fiercely during the process. For Zichen, escaping at the moment was actually the wisest choice. However, looking at the 7 immortal spirit fragments, he was unwilling to give up. Another one. He gritted his teeth and moved forward again. After all, he was very experienced. Get lost! Get lost! As Zichen approached, everyone cursed angrily. Some people tried to stop him. Zichen easily avoided these attacks and approached the third immortal technique fragment. Buzz! His soul power extended, and after about 20 breaths, the immortal spirit fragment was in his hand. Zichen smiled slightly. This time his harvest was enough. It was time to go. At this moment, the other 6 immortal spirit fragments were taken away by the others. Buzz! Without the immortal spirit fragment, the door of ancient techniques suddenly erupted with a terrifying devouring force. Chapter 5350. Out of the dozens of immortal spirit shards, Zichen alone obtained 3. He felt that one should not be too greedy, so he turned around and left. He would never touch the other fragments again. However, he did not expect that the other fragments would also have owners one after another. Without the fragments, the power of the surrounding storm was greatly reduced. The door of ancient methods that had been suppressed earlier suddenly erupted with full power. Not only did it swallow the storm, but it also swallowed everyone in the storm. This included Zichen. Zichen tried to resist, and all the power in his body burst out. His immortal golden body, soul power, and level 3 Dharma power all erupted in an instant. Once he was swallowed, Zichen would have to face others, and the fragments might even be snatched away. However, it was useless. A strange force landed on Zichen's body. Zichen felt as if he was tied up, and his body could not move at all. The next moment, this strange force dragged him into the door of ancient methods. This, Sherfong stared blankly ahead. Dogus and Joshua were also dumbfounded. The change happened too quickly. Just a moment ago, They were still happy that Zichen had obtained something. The next moment, everyone, including the storm, disappeared. The front was empty. Those who had entered the storm and those who were at the edge had all disappeared. There were only a few scattered people standing a little further away. They also stood there in a daze, not knowing what had happened. Shifeng's eyes flashed slightly, and he exclaimed, "It seems that the fragments of the ancient methods are about to appear. I wonder who will be lucky enough to obtain them. Once the ancient method is comprehended, it will definitely be the #1 method in the world." Everyone landed on an open space, one after another. At a glance, there were at least a few hundred people. Everyone was dumbfounded, not knowing what had happened. Only a few individuals showed a look of vigilance. Among them was Zichen. Because they were all winners of the immortal fragments, they felt like they were in possession of a precious treasure. None of them managed to escape in time, and they were all sucked in. Zichen was sizing up his surroundings. "He's Zichen. I saw that he obtained 4 fragments of the immortal fragments." A loud roar rang out. Naturally, it was Luo'eo. Therefore, everyone's attention fell on Zichen. Even those who had obtained immortal spirit fragments were looking at Zichen, as if they wanted to shift the blame to him. After all, they only had 1 each, while Zichen had 4. "I don't have any, not even 1. "Of course." Zichen would never admit that he had only obtained 3. "You're lying. I saw you get 4 with my own eyes." "No, it was 5. Leo angrily rebuked. "How many celestial fragments are there in total? You actually took 5 of them. How do you expect the others to live?" "Has your conscience been eaten by a dog?" Zichen looked at Luo with killing intent in his eyes. The other party was deliberately provoking the battle to make him the center of attention. As for the number of immortal spirit fragments, it didn't matter. "What? Am I wrong? As long as you have some sense of shame, you won't be yelled at everywhere you go. You're just like a rat crossing the street. Disgusting." Luo'eo sarcastically said, "Fortunately, the Soul Dharma Alliance has already banished you. Otherwise, how much of a disgrace would you have brought to the Soul Dharma Alliance?" Everyone watched quietly. Some had a look of ridicule on their faces, while others had a look of killing intent. Luo'eo continued, "Everyone who was banished by the Soul Dharma Alliance and the Pure Land Alliance at the same time. Moreover, the 2 alliances have issued a kill order. Anyone who can kill him will definitely be rewarded handsomely by the 2 alliances." In the crowd, many people's expressions changed when they heard that. Among the people present, those who had the ability to kill Zichen did not care about the reward from the alliance. What they really cared about was the reputation. There was a good reason for this. Meng Cheng couldn't listen anymore. He directly said, "I say, if you guys want to fight, please do it quickly, and we can enjoy it. But it's just killing and stealing. It's not a big deal. Who hasn't done it before? Why do you have to find an excuse to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens?" Luo'eo glanced at Meng Cheng, somewhat dissatisfied with his interruption. "What are you looking at? Do you believe that I will slap you to death?" Meng Cheng's expression turned cold. "Damn it, what kind of dog are you? How dare you look at me like that?" It seemed like someone had transmitted a message to Luo'eo about Meng Cheng's true identity. Luo'eo quickly smiled apologetically and said, "Brother, you are right. This Zichen does deserve to die. If we don't kill someone like him, are we going to keep him alive for the new year?" He then looked at Zichen again. "In the name of the Soul Dharma Alliance, in the name of your mother, you are just a banished person. What qualifications do you have to represent the Alliance?" Zichen was furious. The massacre spirit appeared and turned into a stream of light as it moved forward. Swish! The massacre spirit moved forward, bringing along waves of ripples. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. At this moment, everyone wasn't too far away from each other. When they sensed Zichen's massacre spirit at a close distance, many of them felt a chill. but because they were closer, they could observe the massacre spirit at a close distance and understand Zichen better. Buzz! Luo Ao was already prepared. He took out an ancient talisman and activated it, forming a shield. The massacre spirit was blocked by the shield. Die! Zi Chen rushed forward. This time he didn't intend to let Luo Ao go. Idiot! Can't you see through such a simple provocation? Among the crowd, someone snorted in disdain. Originally, everyone had stayed where they were, waiting to see what would happen. However, Zi Chen's actions had undoubtedly destroyed this balance. Swish! Sure enough, a person jumped out from the dark like a bolt of lightning and directly attacked Zi Chen. This was a sneak attack. Zi Chen turned around in the air and took out the stone sword to block. Swish! In another direction, sword chi shot out. Once Zi Chen moved, the others moved as well. Regardless of whether there was an opportunity or not, they had to kill Zi Chen first. Huh! Zi Chen shouted. Golden light flashed around his body. He dodged one attack, destroyed another with the stone sword, and then used his body to block another attack. He landed on the ground. Swish! The massacre spirit flew back and hovered around Zi Chen. Luo Ao, who was standing in the protection of the ancient talisman, said with disdain, "You want to kill me!" The current massacre spirit was still unable to break through the ancient talisman's defense. As expected of someone from the Mage Soul Alliance, he used the ancient talisman so casually. Meng Qing shook his head. No one knew if he was sighing or sighing. Zi Chen took an attack, but he was unharmed. Seeing this, the others stopped attacking. After all, this was an unfamiliar place. There might be a great opportunity waiting for him. Luo Ao felt somewhat uncomfortable. Zi Chen had just aroused public anger. Moreover, there were many experts here. If everyone joined hands, killing Zi Chen wouldn't be a problem. Right now, he only wanted to kill Zi Chen. Just as Luo Ao was about to say something, the sky suddenly trembled. Then a powerful aura descended. It seemed like a peerless calamity was about to descend from above. Not good. Someone's expression changed. He took a few steps back to avoid the attack. Swish! 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 Suddenly, a stream of light flickered. Those moving people disappeared one by one. Zi Chen stood still. When he saw those people disappear, his face was filled with horror. Zi Chen stood there, not daring to move. He didn't know what had happened. Meng Qing and the others didn't move either. They looked around vigilantly. Soon, most of the people here disappeared. No one knew where they went. They released their soul power and couldn't sense anything unusual. Where did they go? Where did they go? Someone shouted. Rumor has it that there is an ancient technique space in the ancient technique fragment. Maybe they went to the ancient technique space to look for opportunities, just like the immortal spirit space. Someone said. Hearing this, more people moved and then disappeared. Zi Chen looked at Meng Qing and the others and found that they hadn't moved. Zi Chen didn't move either. They were all powerful. They must be here for the ancient technique fragment. Since they didn't move, Zi Chen naturally wouldn't move either. Is it the ancient technique space? Meng Qing looked at Yuan Kuei. Yuan Kuei shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. At this moment, there were only a few dozen people left, and Luo was among them. Buzz! The protection of the ancient talisman disappeared. The massacre spirit moved as well. Zi Chen had long been paying attention to the other party. Zi Chen, you're really sinister. Leo roared and took a step back. His body then disappeared. In the sky, the tyrannical aura descended again, like the Milky Way descending from the 9 heavens, bringing with it a powerful impact. Facing this impact, it was almost difficult to stand steadily. Zi Chen's body shone with golden light, blocking all the impact. Meng Qing and the others were the same. More than a dozen people retreated under the impact of this energy and disappeared. The impact hadn't disappeared, and it was even more terrifying. One existence after another disappeared. Zichen didn't know if this was considered a test, but he still chose not to move. This situation lasted for a long time. Just when Zichen felt that he couldn't hold on any longer, an indifferent voice sounded. "You guys have passed the first round. Next, it will depend on your luck." This voice suddenly sounded, and Zichen was slightly stunned. But in the next moment, his vision blurred, and he appeared in another space. Being able to make it here proves that your luck is not bad. Whether you can get the celestial move next will depend on your luck. That voice sounded again. Zichen immediately asked, "What's the celestial move?" "It's the ancient technique fragment that you guys mentioned." That voice actually responded. Zichen was a little surprised and asked again, "What if I can't get it?" That voice said again, "If you can't get it, you'll die." What? Zichen's expression suddenly changed. Then, how many people will die this time? This isn't a test at all, it's murder. No, only one person will die. Zichen didn't understand. Whether the others can get the celestial move will depend on their luck. If the luck doesn't come, just leave. But you're different. If you can get the celestial move, you can leave with it. If you can't, you'll die. Why? Zichen yelled. Why am I the only one who will die? This time, that voice didn't respond. Why? Zichen was still yelling. There was still no response. Whoosh! A faceless person suddenly appeared. Before Zichen could ask, the faceless person disappeared. Chapter 53-51. Zichen felt himself flying. The delayed pain spread throughout his body. Then he felt a chill at the back of his neck and a strong sense of danger. It was the faceless man's sneak attack, but it was too fast. Swoosh! Zichen swayed in midair, his whole body shining with golden light. With a bang, he was knocked to the ground. Quickly getting up, Zichen looked at the faceless man warily. What kind of sneak attack is that? Also, why do I have to die without getting Tianqing, but others don't? The voice did not respond to any of Zichen's questions. The faceless man did not have a mouth, so he would not respond. He was charging at Zichen. You're courting death. A cold light flashed in Zichen's eyes and he punched. Golden light flashed, showing his strongest power. Seeing that the faceless man was about to be hit by Zichen's punch, his body suddenly twisted and dodged at a strange angle. Bam! Zichen's face was attacked, and his body flew out. Bam! 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 Then several attacks landed on Zichen, and he felt waves of pain. After landing, he had suffered at least a dozen attacks. After getting up, Zichen stared at the faceless man. This time he did not say that it was a sneak attack. It was speed. Strange speed. It could be said to be elusive. Swoosh! Without giving Zichen any time to breathe, the faceless man rushed forward again. I don't believe it. Zichen tapped his feet, and a formation appeared, enveloping the surroundings. This was a gravity formation, and the gravity in the surroundings instantly increased. But soon, a scene that made Zichen's eyes widen appeared. Every step the faceless man took, he accurately stepped on the weak points of the formation. After 6 steps, the formation collapsed with a loud bang. Zichen flew out again. While his body was in midair, he enjoyed a series of attacks. Fortunately, his body was strong, or else he would have been beaten to a pulp. Die! Zichen got up again and used the slaughter spirit. In a close-range battle, with the speed of the slaughter spirit, almost no one could avoid it. Swoosh! Cold light radiated in all directions, and the surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped quite a bit. Shwa! The faceless man actually dodged. Zichen was also surprised that he was able to dodge it at such a close distance. The next moment he was sent flying again. You are courting death! Zichen was enraged. He unleashed his full strength and was about to fight to the death with his opponent. However, all of his attacks couldn't even touch the corner of his opponent's clothes. The faceless man's speed was beyond Zi Chen's imagination. He couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. But Zi Chen was beaten up again and again. Luckily, he had a strong physical body. Otherwise, he would have been beaten to death a long time ago. What does the ancient method have to do with the faceless man? Zi Chen was very depressed. Tianqing, do you want me to learn his footwork? Zi Chen continued to set up formations, and his opponents stepped through them one by one. Their footsteps were completely different. I don't believe it. Forbidden technique of heaven and earth. Zi Chen, who had been beaten up continuously and had no strength to fight back, was furious. A strange power spread out, and this space seemed to be sealed. The faceless man's body was also motionless. Seeing this, Zi Chen sneered. Let's see what you can do now. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a golden light fell from the sky. The golden light ignored Zi Chen's forbidden technique of heaven and earth and landed on the faceless man. Buzz! With the golden light protecting his body, the faceless man instantly broke free from the forbidden technique of heaven and earth and came in front of Zi Chen. Zi Chen yelled, "Cheating! You are cheating!" He punched out, and as expected, he missed. Bam! He was kicked out by the faceless man. Cheating! How is this a test? This is clearly premeditated murder. Zi Chen shouted loudly, but no one responded. Damn it, I am standing right here. I don't believe you can kill me. Zi Chen stood still. The aura around him surged wildly, and his immortal golden body was pushed to the extreme. He wanted to use his body to block the opponent's attack. After all, the faceless man was very fast, but his combat strength was relatively weak. His immortal golden body was enough to block the attack. The faceless man arrived again. There was no change in his expression. When he got closer, he slapped Zi Chen's chest. The golden light on the palm shone brightly. Bam! Zi Chen flew backward, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard. What? When Zi Chen landed, his expression changed drastically. He looked at the faceless man in shock. The opponent's attack had increased several times in an instant. Whoosh! As soon as he landed, the faceless man arrived again. This time he kicked out and broke several of Zi Chen's ribs. If this continued, Zi Chen would be beaten to death in a few blows. This time, Zi Chen was really scared. He took out the World Annihilation Bell. At this moment, the voice finally sounded. A kind reminder. The first stage has passed, and the others will leave one after another. You will enter the second stage by force. At this point, you can only succeed or die. Zi Chen said angrily, "This is not fair." This is very fair. It's unprecedentedly fair. You only kill me and you call that fair. From another perspective, you have the highest chance of obtaining the Skywalker. I don't want to give up my life for this. If you don't prepare to die, what right do you have to obtain the ancient technique of heaven and earth? Others are willing, but not me. You have no choice. Zi Chen was furious, but there was nothing he could do. The faceless man was attacking the World Annihilation Bell. His attacks were getting stronger and stronger. Zi Chen roared a few more times. This time, no one responded to him. This guy's attacks are getting stronger. He might be able to break through the World Annihilation Bell's defense. Zi Chen's expression was very ugly. Right now, I can only think of a way to break this situation. He hid behind the protection of the Golden Bell and looked at the faceless man. The faceless man's attacks were not continuous. He did not throw out one punch after another. Before he attacked, his body would flicker a few times and appear in another direction before attacking. This method was very similar to showing off his speed. Why does it have to be me? Zi Chen began to think about this question. If others don't die, I have to die. Could it be that he's scaring me? This possibility was obviously not high. Because both sides were not familiar with each other, there was no need to scare him. Then why does he have to target me? Meng Qing and the others, which one of them was not talented. If there was any difference between the two sides, it would be their identities. They were from the wasteland, while he was from the Saint Spirit world. However, the ancient technique fragment did not seem to have a big relationship with the Saint Spirit world. Suddenly, Zi Chen's expression changed. Apart from his identity as a Saint Spirit world expert, there was another unique thing that others did not have. That was the soul power of heaven and earth. Was there a connection between the soul power of heaven and earth and the ancient technique of heaven and earth? Zi Chen's eyes lit up as he suddenly saw the light. At this moment he finally understood. No wonder it had to be him, because only he had the soul power of heaven and earth. This was the opportunity given to him by the ancient technique fragment. He closed his eyes and released his soul power to sense if there was anything different about the faceless man. At the same time, Zichen couldn't help but recall the speed cultivation techniques that he had cultivated over the years. From the 9 deaths of lightning to lightning flash, and so on, everything was about speed. These techniques appeared in his mind and were being verified with the faceless man's current figure. Gradually, Zichen fell into a meditative state. He saw the endless starry sky, the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, as well as some living beings living in the chaotic world. Suddenly, a ray of light flew out from the chaos. Those living beings immediately kowtowed to the light as if they had seen a god. The light descended from the sky and landed between the brows of a humanoid being. A mark instantly appeared between his brows, and his aura changed drastically. As if he possessed divine power, his speed became extremely fast. The other living beings immediately kowtowed to this humanoid being. The other party seemed to have instantly become the ruler of heaven and earth, looking down on all living beings. He walked forward, and wherever he passed, all living beings kowtowed. Seeing the speed that the other party displayed, Zi Chen's expression changed, and he exclaimed, "This is the ancient technique of heaven and earth? The first Tao technique that was born between heaven and earth. Heavenly traversal?" Zi Chen, who had fallen into a meditative state, didn't notice that at the moment when his heart was touched, the faceless man suddenly stopped attacking and stood on the spot in a daze. His body released a bright light that carried a trace of ancient chaotic aura. In Zi Chen's soul, an ancient aura also appeared. It was somewhat similar to this chaotic aura. One inside and one outside, the two ancient auras attacked. The world annihilation bell seemed to be unable to withstand this aura and directly withdrew all the energy light. Without the protection of the world annihilation bell, the two ancient auras collided. Buzz! The faceless man's body disappeared and turned into a ray of light. It was like the light of the origin from ancient times, but many times weaker. It entered Zi Chen's glabella. Swish! Zi Chen's consciousness also returned at this moment. He opened his eyes with a blank expression. At this moment, an ancient aura surged from his sea of consciousness. It was accompanied by a trace of information. Heavenly traversal technique. This was the first ancient Tao technique between heaven and earth. This time, Zichen didn't obtain a complete ancient Tao technique, but a trace of the ancient Tao's origin. With it, he was qualified to comprehend the ancient Tao. I see. Zi Chan was filled with emotions. Even if he didn't officially enter the ancient Tao and only obtained a qualification, it was equivalent to a great opportunity for him. Swish! His body flashed and disappeared from the spot. His speed was no slower than the faceless man from before. Although my realm didn't increase, there is an obvious change in my speed. Next, even if I can't win against a siege, I have a way to escape. Zi Chen's face was filled with anticipation. I just don't know if I will be like the living being in the picture and become the master of that world after I completely comprehend the heavenly traversal technique. The trial is over. You are in luck. The indifferent voice sounded for the last time and then disappeared without a trace. No matter how Zichen shouted, the other party didn't respond. It was as if the other party had disappeared. There were waves of ripples. The space where Zichen was shattered like a mirror. He left the ancient Tao space and returned to the wasteland. The others were all here, looking at each other. Zichen also followed the others and looked at the people around him. At this moment, he definitely couldn't show any happy or guilty expression. He could only pretend to be innocent. At this moment, Zichen realized that everyone's attention was almost all on him. This made him stunned. He thought to himself, did I expose myself? Swish, swish, Chapter 53-52. Zichen was stunned. He pretended that nothing had happened the moment he came out, but he did not expect to be surrounded. Did they know that he had gained something? What are you doing? He looked at these people with a vigilant expression, but he still acted innocent. Hand over the ancient technique, fragment immediately. A level 5 heaven, law, cultivator stretched out his hand. If you don't, you know the consequences. Zichen was stunned. Are you an idiot? Which I saw my ancient technique fragment. Zichen had only obtained an ancient technique origin, and he had not even seen the fragment. Even if he wanted to take it out, he did not have the ability. It was a slip of the tongue. Hand over the immortal essence fragment. The level 5 cultivator immediately corrected himself. Otherwise, you know the consequences. In the face of such a blatant robbery, Zichen's response was a punch. Bam! The level 5 cultivator was sent flying. Before his body landed on the ground, the massacre spirit turned into a ray of light and reaped his life. Idiot, of all things to learn, you just had to learn how to rob others. Seeing this, the others immediately retreated, increasing the distance between them and Zichen. A level 5 heaven law cultivator was killed so easily. This was really unexpected. For a moment, the others could not decide whether to continue or not. A mere level 3 cultivator, you sure talk big. Emoli walked over, and the people he brought with him from his family also followed, taking the place of the previous people. Another one who doesn't know his place. Zichen looked at him coldly. Emoli came closer and said coldly, hand over the immortal essence fragment, and I can let you die a quick death. Zichen said disdainfully, you think I don't know how to boast? Kneel down and call me grandpa, and I'll let you die a quick death. Impudent. Before Emoli could speak, the people he brought with him started to scold him. Emoli waved his hand to signal his subordinates not to speak. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said to Zichen, it's understandable that young people have a temper, but sometimes you have to pay the price for being too arrogant. I know you have some grudges with our Titan City. Follow me back to Titan City. Whether you're right or wrong, we'll know when we get there. His attitude instantly changed. When Zichen heard that, he was completely dumbfounded. It was not Emoli's words. But this guy obviously took him for an idiot. If she followed him to Titan City, wouldn't she be courting death? Hence, Zichen turned to look at the man. What did you just say? That person was stunned, surprised that Zichen would ask such a question. What did you just say about me? I didn't hear you clearly. Could you please say it again? Zichen asked again. That person immediately reacted and shouted, impudent! How dare you? F***CK, he said, I'm not presumptuous? Is that what I call impudent? You bunch of dogs, how can I let you live? Zichen's figure flickered, heading straight for the person behind him. He actually took the initiative to attack. This scene was beyond everyone's expectations. You are courting death. That person wasn't weak either. With a loud shout, he used his own strength. He was 5th level Heavenly Dharma Realm. But different from the previous one, he was a 5th level Heavenly Dharma Realm with Titan bloodline, even if this bloodline wasn't that pure. His body swelled rapidly, erupting with a horrifying aura. Feeling his powerful strength, it seemed to give him tremendous confidence. Die! He smacked a palm down. The likes of you are also worthy? Zichen clenched his right fist, golden light shining. A fist smashed down. The palm mark dissipated with a loud bang. Zichen's speed did not decrease, arriving in front of the other party. The fist that did not diminish in power smashed onto the other party's head. Bang! With a huge tremor, the 5th level heavenly Dharma realm's massive body fell down following that. After landing, it turned back to normal size. Immediately after, the body trembled a few more times and turned into withered bones. He was actually killed by one punch. 3rd level heavenly Dharma realm. Dogus and Joshua stood very far away. They witnessed with their own eyes Zichen reaching this realm in an extremely short time. It was truly shocking to the extreme. To say that previously was recovering from injuries, the few levels at the back were clearly relying on his own strength. This speed of breaking through realms was seriously too fast. Courting death. Emoli was enraged and had no choice but to attack. There were too many powerhouses here. The reason why he wanted to bring Zichen back was to prevent others from taking advantage of him, who knew that Zichen was not tactful at all and actually took the initiative to provoke conflict. You guys back off, I'll kill him. Killing intent flickered in Emoli's eyes. He looked at Zichen. I left you some face earlier, but you didn't want it yourself. Don't blame me then. His body also began to swell, turning into a titan. The strength of the 6th level was much stronger than the previous 5th level. Apart from this level, the greater gap was still bloodline. The pressure filled the surroundings, making many people feel extremely uncomfortable. Hence, they retreated again and again. Being targeted wherever he goes, this is too tragic. Meng Qing shook his head, appearing somewhat speechless. Yuan Kuei frowned and said he was the last to appear. Is it possible that he obtained the fragment? Ah, Meng Cheng was stunned. That's not too possible, right? He's only at the 3rd level. Yuan Kuei said, the ancient technique fragment doesn't depend on one's realm. Meng Cheng said again, that's not too possible either. That faceless man is too strong and no one can stop him. The reason why he came out late is probably because he lasted a little longer. Moreover, even we can't find any clues what more him. Yuan Kuei didn't say anything else, but his eyes were fixed on Zichen. Emoli's sudden change in attitude, wanting to bring Zichen back to Titan City, might be because of this. I remember that the dead Mo Yunsong's strongest move wasn't this move of yours. So, this move of yours won't work. Zichen tapped his feet, not fearing the other party at all as he went up to him. Golden light shone as if he was wearing a golden armor to fight against Emoli, courting death. Emoli's voice was like thunder. Every time he attacked, there was a vast aura. His fist smashed down like a millstone, containing the strength of a titan. Heaven and earth were shaking as if they were about to collapse. Within a radius of 5,000 feet, other than the two parties fighting, there were only Meng Cheng and the other for 40,000 feet away. As expected of a god's bloodline, it's indeed not weak. Looking at the power of Emoli's punch, Meng Cheng sighed. Yuan Kuei was still staring at Zichen. At this moment, he was only interested in Zichen. Zichen similarly struck out a punch. But compared to Emoli's millstone-sized fist, Zichen's punch was pitifully small. But its power didn't diminish at all. Golden light bloomed and a loud boom sounded. Ripples spread out in the sky, spreading several thousand feet away. On the ground, sand and rocks flew everywhere. The clouds in the sky shattered, revealing the clear blue sky. Both parties' punches were equally matched. Zichen's figure flashed, and he came to the other party's side as he struck out another punch. A wisp of ancient aura surged out along with it. Immortal punch. Boom! There was a loud boom in front. The 3rd degree Zichen and the 6th degree Emoli were evenly matched. Although the strength of a Titan is the weakest among the gods' bloodlines, an ordinary real body core can't block it at all. Could it be that Ziqin has also received some kind of god's blood baptism? Looking at the two who were equally matched, Meng Cheng's face had a strange expression. The real body core represented a powerful physical body. They also had another name, martial arts. Martial arts had all kinds of powerful physiques, but they needed the corresponding god's blood to be baptized. For example, the divine phoenix indestructible body had to be baptized by the god's blood to be cultivated. The other three also had the same suspicion. Yuan Kuei said, "No, he didn't receive any bloodline baptism." Meng Cheng was surprised. How is that possible? If he didn't receive any bloodline baptism, how can he block the strength of a Titan? Even the real body core can't. I don't know about this, but I'm sure he hasn't received any baptism, because once he's baptized, there will definitely be a vision, and the corresponding bloodline will appear. Yuan Kuei looked at Ziqin, who was shining with golden light. Currently, I don't see any bloodline in his body. He's just himself. This statement shocked the four even more, because this was already beyond their understanding of common sense. The two of them had always been evenly matched. This was simply a disgrace to Emoli. This was because he was 3 whole levels higher than Ziqin, and he had even used his Titan bloodline. "Humph, I guess this should be your full strength, right?" A loud voice rang out. "And for me, this is just the beginning. Next, I'll show you what the true god's power is." Emoli's body returned to normal size. Then, the phantom of a Titan appeared behind him. This was the Titan true god, which was a god. The aura of a god spread out, causing exclamations. Some of the Dharma destroyers couldn't bear this aura and had the urge to kneel down and kowtow. "That's more like it." Ziqin smiled coldly. "For disrespecting a god, I'll deprive you of your life force." A loud and vast voice came from the sky, with a trace of divine power, making people feel like submitting and kowtowing. Ziqin's body shone with golden light, and the immortal golden body also released an ancient aura to resist the divine power in the sky. "You're just a level 6 heaven Dharma realm. Why are you pretending to be a god in front of me?" Ziqin looked up at the sky and said disdainfully, "Even if you're a real god, I'll kill you for daring to provoke me, Ziqin." Ziqin took out the stone sword and pointed at the sky. "Deprive." The tall figure raised his hand and struck out a palm. A palm print fell from the sky, carrying the unique mark of the Titan race, and pressed down on Ziqin. The divine power was vast, and the power of this palm was indeed not weak. Ziqin's eyes flashed coldly. "I've seen this move before." In his left hand, a wisp of energy from the path sword appeared and merged into the stone sword. Buzz! The stone sword trembled as if it was about to leave his hand. Then, in Ziqin's sea of consciousness, another word flew out and merged into the stone sword. The stone sword trembled more and more violently, and Ziqin changed to holding the sword with both hands. Facing the palm print that was coming down, he pointed his sword at the sky. Chi! The sword light broke through the air, and the palm print was split into 2. The mark of the Titan race in the middle couldn't block this sword at all. The sword light's power did not diminish as it attacked Emoli. Wherever it passed, it left a faint mark in the air. The entire sky seemed to have a crack. Facing this sword, Emoli could only widen his eyes and watch in shock. He had no time to dodge at all. The sword light approached. Chapter 53:53. Emoli could only watch the sword strike arrive in a daze. There was no way to dodge it. As the sword light approached, his body seemed to be frozen, unable to move. That was because the sword was too fast. His strongest, the Titan True God, was able to block it for even an instant. Looking at the sword that could kill gods and immortals, he was in complete despair. There was nothing to block it. He could only wait for death. Little B asterisk starred, "You really don't know what's good for you." At that moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded. A powerful aura forced its way into this place. It was a glowing palm that grabbed the sword light. The sword light was extremely sharp, leaving marks in the world. However, it was tightly gripped in the other party's hand, unable to move. In the next moment, the sword light exploded with a bang. An old man stood in the air, releasing a powerful aura. Everyone within a radius of 100,000 feet fell to the ground. They could not withstand the pressure from the sky at all. Even Meng Qing and the other four landed on the ground. Each of them displayed their strongest state, but it was only to resist the aura from the sky. Immortal technique. Zi-chan was shocked, his eyes filled with disbelief. He did not expect that an immortal technique would appear. Patriarch. When Mo Li saw the old man, his eyes immediately had a hint of excitement. He pointed at Zi-chin. "He killed Yin Song and stole 4 of my immortal spirit fragments. Patriarch, please kill him." Little B asterisk starred, "You dare to kill my people in front of me. How can I spare you?" The old man stood in the air and struck out with his palm. Zi-chin had once seen the attack of an immortal technique. However, at that time, the two sides were countless miles apart. Although his realm was higher, he was very close to an immortal technique. The palm print fell, and it seemed to seal this part of the world. He felt that he had fallen into it and could not move at all. The power of the immortal technique shocked Zi-chin. Of course, he could not sit still and wait for death. He directly triggered the origin of the celestial in his sea of consciousness. Run. Hum. As the origin of the celestial was triggered, the suppression of the immortal technique's aura instantly disappeared. Zi-chen's figure also disappeared from the spot. Like a ray of light, he flew toward the horizon. How is this possible? Everyone was stunned and found it hard to believe. How could an immortal technique break free from the suppression of the immortal technique? No one could understand. Even the celestial spell realm elder had a look of astonishment on his face. Patriarch, it's an ancient technique fragment. Mary shouted excitedly. It must be an ancient fragment. He obtained the inheritance of an ancient technique. Previously, Mo Li had such a guess in his heart. That was why he wanted to bring Zi-chen back to Titan City. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't fall for it. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. Then he looked at the fleeing Zi-chen in shock. Did he really obtain an ancient law fragment? Brat, with this old man here, you still want to escape? The old man snorted coldly and slammed his palm down again. In the sky, tens of thousands of feet away, a palm print descended, heading straight for Zi-chen. Shwa! Zi-chen's figure flickered a few times, dodging the attack, and then went far away. If I let you escape today, this old man will no longer be surnamed Mo. The old man sneered. He turned into a stream of light and moved forward. Heavens, isn't this brat's luck too good? He can even obtain the inheritance of an ancient technique. No wonder he's so hated. Meng Qing looked at the immortal technique in the distance and exclaimed, "Now even I am tempted. Why am I not so lucky? Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and follow him." Yuan Kuei was already 100 feet away. The other 3 followed closely beside him. "Wait for me." Meng Qing also chased after him. An ancient technique fragment. That damn guy actually obtained an ancient technique fragment. Luo's eyes flickered. No, we must not let him succeed. What kind of dog is he? How can he be worthy of an ancient technique fragment? Therefore, Luo also chased after him. He sped up and shouted loudly, "Zi-chin, you're a traitor who was expelled by the Pure Land Alliance and Magic Spirit Alliance. What qualifications do you have to obtain the ancient technique fragment? Hurry up and hand it over." The ancient technique fragment has been passed down for a long time. Only the major forces can obtain it. You have no backing and are not worthy of the ancient technique fragment. Luo Luo's voice spread far and wide. This was undoubtedly telling everyone that Zi Qin had no backing and had a precious treasure on him. He could kill him at will. When Zi Qin heard Luo Luo's words, he was so angry that his teeth itched. If it were not for the ancient talisman on him, he would have been killed 800 times. The immortal technique was approaching. The gap between the two of them was too big. Even if Zi Qin had Skywalker, it was impossible for him to be faster than him. Boom! A palm print descended from the sky. Zi Qin immediately dodged. Fortunately, Zi Qin had mastered the ancient technique, Skywalker. Otherwise, he would have died from a single slap. Zi Qin, you're shameless. You snatched my magic spirit, World Destroyer Bell. That's the best among imitations. Before the Magic Spirit Alliance expelled you, you killed many of your companions and snatched many treasures. You're from the lower realm. You have no power. Why don't you tuck your tail between your legs and behave yourself? You're still killing this and that. If you don't die, who will? Luo Luo followed behind him, chattering nonstop. Mangqing said, "How big of a grudge does this guy have with Zi Qin?" In just a short while, all his old secrets have been exposed. Someone from the lower realm. Yuan Kuei was stunned. Didn't they say that the Ascension platform was closed a long time ago? Could it be that it's open now? Who knows? Maybe that guy just said it casually to belittle Zi Chen's identity. Zi Chen used Skywalker. His speed had reached the point of appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Boom! When the palm print descended from the sky with a terrifying attack, it also sealed off a part of the world. Swoosh! Zi Chen used Skywalker. He ignored the pressure and escaped the range of the palm print. However, the speed of the immortal technique was not slow either. The distance between the two was getting closer and closer. Little thing, you can't run away. The voice of the immortal technique seemed to be ringing in his ears. Swoosh! Zi Qin immediately changed his direction and widened the distance between the two again. Only Skywalker had allowed him to persist until now. You have no power and were expelled by the two alliances. You're like a rat crossing the street. Instead of finding a rat hole to hide in, you actually go around killing people. If you don't die, who will? Luo Luo's voice sounded again. Zi Qin gritted his teeth. This guy was like a fly. Swoosh! After changing directions a few times, he turned around and went back. He attacked Luo Luo. The others followed at this moment, but when they saw Zi Qin, they all avoided him. At this time, no one was willing to go against Zi Qin. Swoosh! The slaughtering spirit was the first to attack. He went straight for Luo Luo. Why aren't you dead yet? You made me waste another ancient talisman. Luo Luo shouted and used the ancient talisman again. The slaughtering spirit's attack was blocked. However, this time, Zi Chen did not give up. He also rushed forward. Golden light shone around his body. The immortal golden body was displayed to the extreme. He punched down. Like a divine mountain, it crashed into Luo Luo's defense. Boom! Under the huge impact, Luo Luo was sent flying. The defense of the ancient talisman was still not broken. However, Leonard was also shaken to the core. He shook his head and stood up. Are you a beast? How dare you barge in like that? F***CK, an idiot like you wants to kill me? Zi Chen rushed past and flew into the distance. He could not break the defense, so he could only leave. Luo Luo's words were heard clearly by the immortal spell realm expert from Titan City. There was no need to worry about the consequences of killing such a guy. Furthermore, such a precious treasure was actually in the possession of a member of the younger generation. To him, and even his family, this was a heavenly opportunity. Looking at Zi Qin, who was still running away, he smiled coldly. I said that if I let you escape today, I will no longer be surnamed Mo. Zi Qin did not say anything and ran away. However, it was too difficult. The opponent's speed was far faster than his, not to mention his combat strength. If it were not for the ancient technique, he would have died long ago. As for using the jade talisman to escape, it was completely impossible. All right, it's time to end this. Too much delay means trouble. As soon as he finished speaking, the immortal spell realm expert from Titan City released the power of immortal spells around him. This power of immortal spells turned into real light that enveloped an area of 100,000 feet. It was like a huge cocoon of light that enveloped everyone. This naturally included Zichin. Swoosh! Zichin used the immortal spell and came to the edge of the area. His body crashed into it like a golden meteorite. Boom! With a roar, the recoil force landed on Zichen's body, and he retreated hundreds of feet. He took out the stone sword and slashed down with all his strength. This slash was enough to kill Emoli. However, against the protection of immortal spells, it was useless. It only left a white mark on it. This was the first time Zichun faced an immortal spell, and he could not resist it at all. After more than 10 slashes in a row, he consumed a lot of strength, but he could not damage the protection at all. At this moment, the 100,000 feet cocoon of light began to shrink. When the others saw this, their expressions changed drastically because they were also within the range of the cocoon. If the cocoon of light retracted, would they die? The facts proved that these worries were completely unnecessary. The cocoon of light swept past their bodies and did not cause any harm to them. In the end, Zichun was sealed up layer by layer. His body was no longer under his control. With a wave of the immortal spell's hand, he flew over. "Ha! You finally can't take it anymore." Seeing this, Luan Ao laughed loudly. "Die, we must kill him." Emoli shouted. Meng Cheng and the others looked at Zichen with a complicated expression. Meng Cheng said, "He's talented enough and lucky enough." Unfortunately, it was indeed a pity. Such talent was actually suppressed by the immortal spell. Not to mention others, if it was someone from my clan, they wouldn't dare to target him like this. Meng Cheng said again. "Just watch." Yuan Kuei said, "This time the Mo family is a little unruly, but it won't be that easy to take away the ancient technique inheritance from here." Just before this, they had already sent messages to their clans to inform them of the truth. Zichin came in front of the immortal spell. He was still trying to struggle. The immortal spell sneered. "It's useless to struggle. Tell me, should I slap you to death or pinch you to death with a finger?" Emoli flew forward and said, "Ancestor, don't let him die so easily. I want to skin him alive first and torture him to death." Luan Ao ran over. "Don't. That's a waste. Hurry up and search his soul first. There must be a great secret on him." The immortal spell looked at Luan Ao and nodded slightly. "That's a good idea." With that, he stretched out his hand and aimed at Zichen's head. "Kid, I want to see what secrets are in your head. If you touch him, I'll bury your entire clan." An indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Chapter 53-54. "If you touch him, I'll bury your entire clan." These words were forceful and even carried a heart-palpitating pressure. That was Titan City. It was the Mo family's power. Who dared to say that they would exterminate their clan? The aura was like a torrent descending from the sky. It was as terrifying as the abyss, but it did not have the feeling of being overbearing. Everyone felt that a destructive storm was descending here. When it approached, it was like a breeze blowing past. It did not hurt them at all. A person appeared. Unlike the appearance of the Mo family's immortal spell, everyone prostrated on the ground. His appearance did not have the aura of seizing people. The immortal spell stopped what he was doing and looked at the person in the sky in surprise. The others were also stunned, their expressions full of doubt. There were also some people who looked at Leonard. Didn't they say that this person had no background? What was going on? The expressions of Yuan Kuei and the others became extremely solemn. Just the release and restraint of the aura alone showed that this person was extraordinary, enough to attract attention. Not to mention the others, even Chen was stunned. He could hardly believe his ears, so he turned around and looked with his eyes. Looking at the person who came, he could not believe it. He blinked and looked again. It was still the same person. Lady. Chen tried to call out. Lady nodded slightly. How is this possible? Chen was stunned as if he had seen a ghost. Why was Lady here? The passage to the immortal spell realm was now controlled by him. He had never seen Lady before. Moreover, when Lady was asleep back then, he was only a holy venerable. The current aura should be at least an immortal spell. Who are you? The Mo family's immortal spell frowned at Lady. Why are you interfering in this matter? Lady said, someone from the lower realm. As soon as these words came out, it immediately caused a commotion. Chen's clansmen, Humph. The Mo family's immortal spell, snorted coldly. No wonder. I thought you were a busybody. However, even if you have a relationship, I still have to advise you to scram. He pointed at his feet. This is the wasteland, not the lower realm where mortals like you live. Here, the rules are written by us families. He sneered. And if I, Mo Chuan, want to kill someone, no one can stop me. Lady glanced at him. Do you have the right to speak here? What? You dare to attack me? Believe it or not, I can pinch this little brat to death with just a stretch of my hand. Mo Chuan roared. Get over here, kneel down and apologize. Otherwise, this little brat will die. As soon as he finished speaking, Mo Chuan reached out and was about to grab Chen's neck. Lady waved his hand expressionlessly. Space distorted, and a palm appeared out of thin air. Pa! With a resounding sound, Mo Chuan flew away from Chen. There was a palm print on his face. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and several of his teeth fell out. Do you have the right to speak here? Lady's face turned cold, and another slap fell. There were palm prints on both sides of Mo Chuan's cheeks. This scene left everyone dumbstruck. With just 2 waves of his hand, Mo Chuan was beaten to the point where he couldn't even fight back. Just how strong was this person? There was actually such a strong person behind Chen. So many people looked at Luo Ao. Didn't they say that this person was just a nobody? Then what was this? Luo Ao was also shocked. He had almost investigated Chen's background, and there was no force behind him at all. If it weren't for his good luck, he would have been killed by others long ago. How could such a person have a powerful background? But where did this guy come from? You dare to humiliate me. This old man will kill you, not only you, but also all the beasts from the lower realms. Mo Chuan was already flustered and exasperated, and his eyes were full of resentment. Making a fool of himself in front of so many juniors, without a doubt, his shameful deeds would soon spread. How could he bear it? This time, Lady didn't even look at Mo Chuan. He stretched out his hand again and patted the air. Crack! Mo Chuan's bones were all shattered, and his body flew backward. After landing on the ground, there was no more vitality. His body turned into bones. It immediately caused an uproar. One should know that this was an immortal method, a powerful immortal method, but it was killed just like that. He only raised his hand 3 times. However, the first 2 times were at most a lesson, and the last time was a strike in anger. It was equivalent to being killed in an instant. At this moment, everyone recalled what the other party said before and looked at the bones. They had to believe that the other party had the strength to destroy the Mo family. Chen was still stunned there. Lady's appearance surprised him. He didn't expect Lady to be so powerful. Ancestor! Mo Li shouted, but he quickly reacted and hurriedly covered his mouth. If he admitted that he was an ancestor, he would be courting death. Lady's figure fell, ignoring Mo Li. He came in front of Chen and stretched out his hand to rub his head. Many people were shocked. The other party had just stretched out his hand 3 times, and Mo Chuan was dead. What would Zichen do now? There was no danger. Lady just smiled. You. Zichen came to his senses. Lady nodded again, confirming Zichen's guess. Where is he? Zichen couldn't believe it. He was shocked and full of anxiety, because that was another Zichen. Back then he had a lot of halos, all of which came from the other party. We happened to pass by, so we came to see you. Lady said, I didn't expect to meet you so soon. Seeing that Zichen was about to say something, Lady said, Next, I'll tell you. Zichen calmed himself down. Back then, the immortal spell realm collapsed because of a great battle. The wasteland is only a part of it. According to our guess, the other part should be above. No one knows the main reason for the great battle, but it's nothing more than a battle of interests. You've already come into contact with the power of the Titans. It can be considered a kind of power of the gods. Many inheritances from back then either disappeared or were taken away after the great battle. It can be said that they are completely extinct. For example, the current Dharma Soul clan. In fact, what they learned and used came from the Tao of divine inscriptions. It's just that in the great battle, the divine inscriptions were defeated, and the winner took everything from them and established the Dharma Soul clan. The martial arts clan is actually not much different. These secrets made Zichen widen his eyes and listen in shock. You just need to remember that many inheritances that have been passed down have nothing to do with the spiritual realm back then. In that battle, all the inheritances of the spiritual realm here were completely destroyed. Lady patted Zichen's shoulder. I'm not telling you this to let you carry the hope of reviving the spiritual race. I'm just telling you some of the truth back then. The spiritual race has long been destroyed. We just need to live our lives well. Zichen nodded blankly. Then Lady took out a fragment. This is what the Lord asked me to give to you. The ancient technique has a spirit. He got the fragment, but he couldn't keep the origin. Now that you have the origin, this is naturally the most suitable for you. This was an ancient technique fragment, a real ancient technique fragment. Zichen looked around warily. Lady took it out like this, which was not a good sign. Lady said, Don't worry. They can't hear or see what we're saying. Only then did Zichen feel relieved and take the ancient technique fragment. With the ancient technique fragment in hand, the ancient technique origin in Zichen's knowledge, C reacted. The Lord said that the ancient technique has a long way to go. In addition to strength, it depends more on luck. Lady said, the Lord gave an example. Take the sky travel fragment, for example. No one knows how many there are, and it's extremely difficult to gather them all. Zichen said, I don't expect too much. I'll just get as many as I can. It's good that you don't insist and don't go to extremes. Lady smiled. I was going to return Shui Wu to you today, but the Lord said that he still needs it to do something, so we can only wait for next time. Lei Tian asked me to send his regards and said that he'll find you for a drink if there's a chance. Lei Di looked at Zichen in front of him and fell silent. He said that only the Saint Zichen of the past was left. That was the Lord that Lei Di mentioned. The Lord also said that you don't need to think too much. You are you, the one and only you. Zichen nodded again, then asked, Where are they? Lady looked in a certain direction. Zichen couldn't see anything, but he could sense that there was someone familiar in that direction. A black-robed man stood there indifferently. He had a scar on his face, and his face was somewhat similar to Zichen's, but his eyes were sharp and cold, and his temperament was completely different. Lei Tianshi stood behind him, and Shui Wu stood on top of Lei Tianshi's head. The wind blew, and his black robe fluttered. A lock of long hair fluttered, and the black-robed man's eyes turned cold, as if infinite killing intent seeped out of his body. This path is blocked. Suddenly, a person appeared out of thin air. After exchanging a glance with the black-robed man, he immediately bowed to him. "I didn't know you were here. Sorry for disturbing you," the black-robed man grunted, his tone filled with dissatisfaction. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the dark, a few more people appeared and immediately cupped their fists at the black-robed man. They were all immortal techniques from North Desert City. Any one of them could summon wind and rain. But today, they stopped because of a black-robed man. They had never seen this person before, but the aura around him made their hearts palpitate. Just a glance was enough to make immortal techniques feel fear. What kind of strength did he have? They couldn't help but think of the immortal spirit fragment. Only the death of an immortal spirit would produce immortal spirit fragments. In North Desert City, who could cause an immortal spirit to die? Previously, they had been searching for the truth, but there were no clues. Now, they felt that the truth was right in front of them. Those two guys, just treat them as you're training. Only by constantly training can you grow faster. Lei Di rubbed Zi Chen's head again, then smiled and turned to leave. "We have other things to do, so we can't stay for long. If fate wills it, we'll meet again." The others didn't see or hear what the two said. They stood there, not saying a word, and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. This was because everyone could feel that there was an indescribable pressure in this place. It was as if a peerless great danger was hibernating and could awaken at any time. Lady came over and said, "I've told you everything." Lei Tianshi laughed. "Then what about Zi Qin? Did he say he missed me? After all, in terms of relationship, we are the closest." Lei Di said indifferently he didn't say anything. The black-robed man turned around and looked into the distance. There, Zi Qin seemed to have lost his soul. He opened his mouth, and a rare look of panic appeared on his face. In the end, he whispered, "Are you all well?" This was a rare display of weakness, even helplessness. For the number one person of the Saint Spirit realm, this was almost never seen before. In front of his friends, family, and all living beings of the spirit realm, he had always been confident, wise, powerful, and omnipotent. He was able to resolve all the dangers, even if it was a world-ending crisis. He had never been weak or helpless. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. If he gave up, there would be no hope for the spirit realm. The black-robed man seemed to clearly sense Zi Chen's emotions. He also knew very well what Zi Chen had endured along the way. He was practically carrying an entire realm forward alone. It was a pressure that ordinary people couldn't imagine. "You've done well, better than all of us. Facts have proven that you are the key to triggering the changes in the spirit realm. Because of your choices, the spirit realm has reached this point." The black-robed man cupped his fists in the direction of Zi Qin. Lei Tianshi and Lei Di also cupped their fists and bowed. Shui Wu whimpered. This was to thank him. Thank Zi Qin for his contributions to the spirit realm. Chapter 53-55. The moment the black-robed man left, his emotions fluctuated, and his suppressed aura leaked out a little. All the immortal spells trembled, not even daring to breathe. Even though the three of them had disappeared, no one dared to move for a long time. This was perhaps the most powerful existence they had ever seen in their lives. In another direction, Zi Chen faced the sky, cupped his fists, and returned the greeting. At this moment, he was calm and relieved. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. In fact, he was not alone on this path, because he had companions by his side. There were fellow Taoists on the road ahead. Lei Di came and left. He did not leave any harsh words, nor did he threaten anyone. The black-robed man came and left. Facing the group of immortal spells, he did not say any threatening words. However, when these immortal spells approached this place, no one dared to scold Zi Qin. The threat did not exist. The invisible deterrence of the three was the most fatal. Among the immortal spells that arrived were the clansmen of Meng Cheng and the others. They immediately told what had happened here. Everyone looked at Zi Qin, their eyes flashing with surprise. An immortal spell smiled bitterly and said, "If he's just a white stripe, then wouldn't we be worse than a white stripe? Let's go, let's go. This time we'll just watch the show." When Zi Qin came back to his senses, Luan Ao had already escaped and Mo Li was gone. When Zi Chen was talking to Lei Di, they saw that the situation was bad and fled. Lei Di discovered them, but did not make a move. That was a test for Zi Qin. If he could not even deal with these two people, how could he be a fellow Taoist on the road ahead in the future? Zi Qin, this matter is over. We have to go back. If there's a chance, come to Ma Bei City. I'll treat you to a drink. Meng Cheng and the others arrived and cupped their fists at Zi Qin. Okay, Zi Qin accepted this goodwill. The others also left. Some of them said goodbye to Zi Qin before leaving. Although Zi Qin did not know these people, and perhaps they had the intention to kill and steal the treasure, he still responded to them one by one. Everyone left, including those immortal spells that came here. No one mentioned the ancient technique fragment again. He didn't even mention the words celestial spirit fragment. Shi Feng walked over with Douglas and Joshua by his side. After saying goodbye to Zi Qin, the three of them left. Only Zi Qin was left. It was empty and somewhat lonely. The wind blew, but it was warm. Zi Qin's lips curled into a smile. The three people and one beast flew through the air at a very fast speed. Lei Tianshi tilted his head and looked at the black-robed man. "Sir, why don't you go and greet him? Even if we're pressed for time, it won't make a difference, right? It doesn't matter whether I go or not. If he sees me, the pressure will be even greater." The black-robed man said calmly, "Is that so?" Lei Tianshi scratched his head. Lei Di said, "Lei Tian, if you want to go so much, why didn't you go before?" Lei Tianshi raged. "Don't call me Lei Tian. My name is Lei Tianshi. It's a good name." The fact that the spiritual realm could break through the original situation and evolve to this point, I'm the one who came up with this name. Then Lei Tianshi sighed again. "Zi Qin and I are old friends. When we meet, we naturally have endless things to talk about. Maybe we'll eat and drink and get drunk for 3 days. I'm not as cold as you, so I didn't go. I didn't want to waste time." Lei Di snorted. In the past, their attitude towards Zi Qin was actually very complicated. However, ever since Saint Zi Qin had awakened, this complicated feeling had disappeared. What replaced it was pure emotion. "Sir, what is the relationship between you and Zi Qin now?" Lei Tianshi asked curiously. He and Lady never called the person in front of them by name. To the two of them, the name Zi Qin only belonged to the person they had watched grow up. Speaking of this topic, the black-robed man didn't have any hesitation. "Back then, I witnessed his rise and growth. When I chose to give up the soul fusion, he was him, and I was me. The two of us are already different souls." At this point, the black-robed man paused slightly. In the past, he had many chances to awaken, but he didn't choose that path. Instead, he watched Zi Qin grow step by step. He also secretly absorbed Zi Qin's power and grew stronger step by step, until the final moment when he appeared and killed Lei Jinka. His life choice is the exact opposite of mine. I witnessed his growth, saw his hard work and sacrifice, as well as his extraordinary sense of responsibility. In this aspect, I'm actually not as good as him. Thus, after secretly watching the first half of his life, I have also reflected on myself and wondered if I should learn from his humility when dealing with people. The black-robed man shook his head. In the end, I found that I couldn't learn from him. This is my personality, and he is that kind of person. Now, if I really want to talk about the relationship between me and Zi Qin, what is it? Saying that we are the same soul is obviously inaccurate. Maybe I'm his father? After all, I watched him grow up bit by bit. When Lei Tianshi heard this, he laughed. Have you ever seen a father who steals his own son's power to grow? Lei Di also smiled. Indeed, I haven't. To be able to talk about this openly, they had already calmed down. Back then, when Lei Tianshi and Lei Di treated Zichen, they always had the shadow of the holy sage Zichen. But since the holy sage appeared, Zichen became a junior in their eyes. And just as the black-robed man Zichen said, the two of them were not the same person. If they were really related, then they could only be an elder who silently watched a junior grow up. Their hearts should be filled with relief. Let's go. The next thing is a little tricky. If we can't kill that immortal and let him escape to the upper realm, we'll be in big trouble. The black-robed man increased his speed. Zichen didn't immediately head to North Desert City. He left and found a cave to cultivate. Only when he reached level 4 Heavenly Dharma did he walk out again. With the help of the immortal fragment, his cultivation speed was very fast. North Desert City was the largest city in this area. It had always been in a leading position and belonged to the core area. It was a huge city, just like the Mana Spirit Alliance that he had been to previously. It was a city built on the wasteland. Its scale wasn't any smaller than the Mana Spirit Alliance back then. Along the way, Zichen also saw a few cities built on the wasteland, but those were all symbolic. For example, Titan City. He took a look from afar. It was only 20 miles in size. The rest was in the Pure Land. It was equivalent to expanding the entrance area. But it was different here. This was a complete and huge city. Zichen followed the crowd and walked in. This place was bustling and lively. The cultivators' levels were also very high. Dharma destroyers were everywhere. There were even quite a number of heavenly Dharma. You've heard, right? There's a person from the lower realm called Zichen who got an ancient technique fragment. Someone from the lower realm? Aren't they all ants? How can they get something like an ancient technique fragment? What kind of treasure is the ancient technique fragment? Why didn't anyone snatch it? What are those people doing? Why did they let an ant take away the ancient technique fragment? Zichen had just entered the city when he heard such comments. He frowned slightly. He didn't expect the people here to be so repulsed by people from the lower realm. Damn it, those people are too stupid. They actually gave such a treasure to that ant from the lower realm. Don't let me see him, or I'll definitely kill him. Zichen, right? I'll remember it. A small ant dares to snatch our resources. The reason why there was such hostility was because of the words someone from the lower realm. Thinking of what Lei Di said back then, Zichen could understand. In the era before the turmoil, the forces that represented the spiritual realm were defeated, causing all the inheritances to disappear. Even if some inheritances were passed down, they became the inheritances of others. Just like the Mana Spirit Alliance, they snatched the inheritance of the Tao of divine inscriptions. Now, not only did they say it was theirs, but they also had a lot of hostility toward people from the lower realm. Hearing these voices, Zichen was expressionless. It wasn't that he didn't want to care, but that he couldn't. Zichen, it's really you. A cold laugh suddenly sounded, and a person immediately jumped down from the building and stood in front of Zichen. It was Luo again. At that time, he ran very quickly. He didn't expect to see him again today. At this moment, Zichen suddenly understood why these people were so hostile toward him. This Luo should have contributed greatly. The originally bustling street instantly became absolutely silent. Everyone turned their heads in unison and looked at Zichen. They were still discussing this name earlier, but they didn't expect to see it right away. However, there were still some people who had doubts on their faces. They weren't sure whether this was Zichen or not. Zichen, how dare you? You stole the ancient fragment and didn't find a mouse hole to hide in. How dare you come out? Luo continued to laugh coldly. But thinking about it, how could a piece of trash like you miss such a grand event? As soon as the sentence was said, it immediately confirmed Zichen's identity. Immediately, a lot of killing intent emerged. Zichen was surrounded by killing intent. "Wanna die?" Zichen looked at Luo coldly. Luo laughed loudly and said, "You've done many evil things and were expelled by the Pure Land and Magic Soul Alliance. I came here as the embodiment of justice. I can understand that you want to kill me. However, this is North Desert City. Even if I give you 200 guts, you won't dare to touch a finger of mine. Get lost." Zichen swept a glance at Luo. He really couldn't do anything to him at the moment. Because the other party had an ancient talisman on him, he couldn't kill him at all. It was his first time encountering such a troublesome fly. Yet, he couldn't do anything to him. Zichen walked forward. Luo didn't dare to be too presumptuous and took the initiative to move aside. "Zichen, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you're really shameless. At that time, all the young masters of North Desert City were present. But you played tricks and used their righteousness to steal the ancient fragment. You're really despicable and shameless. You still dare to come to North Desert City. Even if the young masters are magnanimous and don't argue with you, will their clansmen let you go? Listen to my advice. Get lost quickly. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death." Zichen was already far away. Luo smiled proudly and turned to leave. The news had spread and his goal was achieved. Now he just had to wait for Zichen to be besieged by thousands of people. "Humph! You old guys don't dare to make a move. I'll borrow the power of the young people." Luo's lips curled into a cold smile. Ever since that incident, no one dared to go against Zichen. Titan City's Mo family's immortal method was killed, but they didn't dare to say anything. They wouldn't dare to seek revenge on Zichen even if they had 10 times the courage. The other factions also knew that Zichen had the ancient fragment, but they didn't do anything. It was obvious that they were afraid. However, Luo wasn't afraid. Chapter 53-56. The news spread. Wherever Zichen went, there would be hostility. Those who did not know would probably mistakenly think that he was a ferocious and evil person. However, hostility was hostility. No one made a move. Perhaps it was because the rules of North Desert City were too strict. Some people kept following Zichen. This made Zichen, who wanted to go to a tavern, give up the idea. He should find an inn to stay in first. "Zichen." A voice sounded from above. Zichen looked up and saw a familiar face at the window on the second floor. "Shifeng, come up." Shifeng was pleasantly surprised. Zichen was very surprised. He walked in without hesitation. "He's Zichen, the ant from the lower realm who stole the ancient method fragment. How can we let the ant enter here? That's right. Chase the ant Zichen out." The people behind followed suit. However, the owner of the restaurant did not cooperate with the crowd to chase him out. After Zichen came in, he immediately attracted many gazes. Then he walked to the second floor. Soon, others also came in. The restaurant, which was originally scattered and not full of customers, was instantly full. The manager stood there and smiled slightly. He only cared about whether the business was good or bad. He did not care about anything else. Zichen went up to the second floor. Shifeng immediately walked over and said with a surprised face, "I didn't expect you to really come." Zichen said, "I happened to pass by here, so I came to take a look." Another group of people walked to the second floor. One of them reprimanded Shifeng. "Do you know who he is? How dare you invite him up? He's an ant from the lower realm, an ant who stole the ancient method fragment." Shifeng glanced at him and said coldly, "Get lost!" He obviously would not spoil a mere Dharma destroyer. How can an ant from the lower realm behave atrociously here? The Dharma destroyer said, "Besides, why should I get lost? I'm here to eat." After saying that, he found a place to sit down and then glared at Zichen fiercely. The others also sat down. This floor was soon full. "Everyone, what do you want to eat?" The waiter immediately walked up with a menu. his face full of smiles. But when the others saw the menu, they couldn't laugh anymore. After all, in this wasteland, eating was a very luxurious thing. Since this restaurant was luxuriously decorated, the price of the dishes was naturally not cheap. Even those at the spell annihilation realm had to grit their teeth. Everyone, if you are here to eat, we welcome you. But if you are here to cause trouble, then don't blame us for being impolite. Little Fool's smile disappeared. As a result, about half of the people who came here were chased away. As for the other half, they gnashed their teeth and glared at Ziqin as they ate. There were also some who sat on the first floor and would occasionally come up to take a look, afraid that Ziqin would run away. You're also here for the Mo Bay Grand Meeting, right? After the two sat down, Shifeng poured a glass of wine for Ziqin. Mo Bay Grand Meeting? Ziqin was very surprised. Don't you know? Looking at Ziqin's expression, Shifeng asked in return. Ziqin shook his head. He came here only because he had no place to go. Shifeng said, the Mo Bay Grand Meeting is held every once in a while. All the forces in the nearby area will come here. Ziqin asked curiously, is there any opportunity here? A mysterious smile suddenly appeared on Shifeng's face. He lowered his voice and said, there is a pure land. Ziqin was stunned. It didn't seem to be anything strange, right? Along the way, he had seen many pure lands. Could it be a new pure land? Ziqin thought of Shifeng's profession, which was a dragon seeker. Since he was here, there must be a reason. Yes, it's a new pure land. Shifeng smiled and then said, but the most important thing is not those pure lands, but the thing in the pure land. What is it? Ziqin asked again. God's blood essence. This time, Shifeng used voice transmission. What is that? Ziqin's expression didn't change much. Seeing this, Shifeng no longer pretended to be mysterious. You know Titan City's Mo family. There is a rumor that their Titan bloodline was discovered from a drop of God's blood essence. What? Ziqin's expression couldn't help but change. Ziqin didn't know about other families, but this Mo family, Ziqin couldn't be clearer. If it wasn't for the Titan bloodline, their combat power was almost mediocre. This is just a rumor. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Shifeng said, the reason why the Mo Bay City's Grand Meeting is so popular is because of this rumor. Shifeng transmitted again. I heard a secret rumor. The reason why the major forces of Mo Bay City built the city here is because they obtained the bloodline power here. For many years, they have been looking for a complete God's bloodline. Ziqin naturally had seen the bloodline power. He originally thought that he could be indifferent no matter how great the opportunity was, since he had obtained the ancient law fragment and the immortal spirit fragment. However, the current God's bloodline was definitely an opportunity that couldn't be ignored. Looking at Ziqin's changing gaze, Shifeng smiled and said, why? Are you tempted? Ziqin said, since I've encountered such an opportunity, I naturally can't miss it. His combat power wasn't weak to begin with. Once he obtained the bloodline power, wouldn't he be even stronger? Walking in this wasteland, Ziqin wouldn't let go of any opportunity to become stronger. At the very least, he could bring the opportunity back and give it to his companions. Based on the attitude of the people here towards the people from the lower realm, Ziqin predicted that in the future, people from the other spiritual realms wouldn't have an easy time walking in this wasteland. Therefore, before their hostility erupted, every bit of strength he could strengthen himself was better than nothing. Don't be happy too early. If you want to participate in the Grand Meeting, there is another prerequisite, which is to obtain an invitation token. Shifeng said, for others, it's relatively easy to obtain a token, but it's different for you. Your combat power is strong, and you've become famous as soon as you arrived here. If you don't have the permission of those families, it won't be easy to obtain a token. Ziqin frowned slightly when he heard this. If he couldn't participate, he would miss it. If he missed such an opportunity, it would be too miserable. Suddenly, Zichen felt that the dishes in front of him were no longer fragrant. Suddenly, he looked at Shifeng and asked, "Do you have a token?" Shifeng said, "I don't have one now, but with my status, it's not difficult to obtain one." Zichen suddenly smiled slightly, as if he was no longer worried. Shifeng's expression changed. "Don't tell me you want to snatch my token? Let me tell you it's useless. The token is based on one's real name." Zichen became worried again when he heard this. The corner of Shifeng's mouth began to twitch. He actually thought so. His expression immediately turned ugly. "Aren't we friends?" Zichen nodded and said yes. Shifeng's expression became more and more unsightly. He thought to himself, "Do you specifically target friends? It seems that I have to think of a way to get a qualification." Zichen muttered, "If I miss this opportunity, I'll definitely be struck by lightning." Suddenly he asked again, "What realm can those who can participate? Are there immortal spells?" Shifeng curled his lips and said, "What do you think immortal spells are? Cabbages that can appear casually?" Immediately, Shifeng thought of the existence behind Zichen and shook his head with a sigh. Immortal spells are hard to come by. As for being killed, it's even harder. Of course, common sense is an exception here. Take the Mo family, for example. Because they have an immortal spellmaster, the family's reputation is out there. But after that immortal spellmaster was killed by your friend, the Mo family's status instantly fell. "Who's Zichen? Get out here." At this moment, a roar suddenly sounded from below. "Zichen is up there. Yes, that ant is drinking up there." Someone immediately responded. Then the stairs began to shake and a burly man walked up. His body was as strong as an ox. As he walked up the stairs, the steps creaked as if they would collapse at any time. After he went upstairs, he glanced around coldly. A few kind-hearted people immediately pointed at Zichen. "He's there. That's the Ant Zichen. You're the ant." The burly man looked at Zichen with a very arrogant expression. Zichen's face turned cold. "You're the ant. Your whole family are ants. People from the lower realm are ants." "That's right. We used to call people from the lower realm ants. In the era before the chaos, that's what we called you ants. You don't deserve a name. Ants is your collective name." As soon as Zichen's voice fell, the others spoke one after another. One by one, their voices were surprisingly loud. Zichen snorted coldly. "In the era before the chaos, it's very likely that your ancestors also came from the lower realm." As soon as Zichen said this, everyone was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. They instantly exploded. Bullsh *T were not ants from the lower realm. In the era before the chaos, we were already the descendants of the gods. That's right. No matter what, we're descendants with the bloodline of the gods. Everyone was very agitated. It seemed that they were insulted by their origins from the lower realm. Zichen remembered what Lady said back then. After that battle, all the inheritances from the spirit world disappeared. Even if there were, they were called by other names and had long been cut off from the spirit world. Looking at these angry people, Zichen couldn't help but suspect that their ancestors must have contributed a lot in exterminating the spirit race in the war back then. Many of their ancestors should have come from the spirit world, but they had long denied their original identity. "Aunt Zichen, do you dare to fight with me?" The brawny man looked at Zichen provocatively. "If you lose, immediately get out of North Desert City and hand over the ancient law fragments on you." At this moment, Luo Ao's voice was heard. "Dear hero, apart from the ancient law fragments, the Ant Zichen also has immortal soul fragments. There are at least 7 or 8 of them." Hearing this, a trace of greed flashed in the brawny man's eyes. "If you lose, hand over everything on you." Zichen said coldly, "I never fight with others." The brawny man sneered. Are you afraid? He must be afraid. It's said that ants from the lower realm are all as timid as mice. Today, I see that they live up to their reputation. Think about it. If they weren't as timid as mice, how could they be called ants? The others also joined in the commotion. Luo also laughed. Aunt Zi-Chin, if you don't dare to fight, hurry up and go back to your lower realm. Isn't it better to be an ant from the lower realm? Why do you have to come to our noble wasteland to seek trouble? If you're afraid, I won't force you. The brawny man pointed at his crotch and said, Crawl through here and pretend that I've never been here. The crowd roared with laughter again. Crawl, hurry up and crawl. An ant crawling through. It'll be interesting. Luo also smiled. Hurry up and bring me another pot of wine. I want to watch a good show. His goal was finally achieved. Zi-Chen was like a rat crossing the street. Everyone wanted to step forward and trample on him. Right at this moment, Zi-Chen said, You think too highly of yourself. I've never sparred with others because I only want to fight to the death with others. I'll live and you'll die. Chapter 53-57. There was only a moment of silence before the crowd burst into laughter. Life and death battle? Who are you trying to scare? They were amused by Zi-Chin. A mere ant was worthy of a life and death battle. Interesting, this is really interesting. The burly man laughed. I just wanted you to get lost, but I didn't expect you to take the initiative to court death. You ant, trying to scare me with a life and death battle. What a joke. The burly man stretched out his hand and pointed outside the window. Let's go to the arena. If you don't dare to go, what I said before still stands. Crawl under my crotch, and I'll let you go. You talk too much nonsense. Zi-Chin walked towards the stairs. The others sneered. After paying the bill, Shifeng followed after them. When Zi-Chin arrived at the arena, there were already thousands of people gathered there. They were enthusiastic, and when they saw Zi-Chin, they all shouted, Aunt Zi-Chin, loudly. It seemed to be very popular, but it was not good words at all. As for the burly man, everyone shouted the word hero. Zi-Chin walked up the arena expressionlessly. Since he was already targeted, there was no need to retreat. The deterrence of Lei Di and the others was still there, and they did not dare to use their immortal arts. Zi-Chen did not mind beating them until they were convinced. After all, no matter what, strength was the most important thing. The burly man also walked up the arena and looked at Zi-Chen indifferently. Zi-Chen said, If I kill you here, I won't have to take responsibility, right? The burly man snorted. If you really have the ability, just do it. With so many witnesses, the moment you step on the arena, life and death will be up to fate. Now that you say so, I'm relieved to kill you. Zi-Chen nodded, then stretched out his hand and made a gesture of invitation. His eyes gradually turned cold and murderous. I advise you, don't think too much. Don't think about those unrealistic things. What you should consider now is how you can die in my hands with dignity. The burly man snorted and released his aura. He was a 5th-level Heaven Law cultivator. I'd like to see what qualifications a lowly ant like you has to provoke me. A dignified death is the greatest mercy I can give you. Seeing this, Luaneo immediately said, Hero, this person is extremely despicable. He once killed a 5th-level Heaven Law Realm expert. Be careful of his stone sword. Don't be careless. When the burly man heard this, he restrained his expression and said, I know what to do. After he finished speaking, his aura changed again. This time, it was twice as strong as before. He clenched his fists tightly as a tyrannical power surrounded his body. Sharp spikes suddenly grew out of his body one after another. Under the sunlight, they flickered with a cold light. The originally strong man had now become a person with spikes all over his body. This is blood pulse power. He has a god, spirit, blood pulse. Someone exclaimed. It is no wonder he dares to stand up now. He is a descendant of a god, spirit, blood pulse. The crowd was in an uproar. Hearing these voices, Zichen was expressionless. It was not that he had never come into contact with a god, spirit, blood pulse. From Mo Yunling, who escaped at the beginning, to Mo Yunsong, who was killed at the end, they were all people with God's spirit blood pulse. And this one in front of him, his blood pulse power was obviously not as good as Mo Yunsong's. It was probably just his body that was stronger. And today I will let you feel the power of a descendant of a god spirit. The burly man roared and rushed forward. He clenched his fists tightly, and his momentum was heavy. At the same time, those long spikes also surged with an oppressive chill as they attacked Zichen. Zichen narrowed his eyes. Without any nonsense, he punched out. Golden light shone. This was the immortal golden body. You don't know what's good for you. Seeing that Zichen wanted to use his fist to block his long spikes, a look of disdain flashed in the burly man's eyes. The long spikes whistled like sharp swords. Zichen's fist came into contact with those long spikes. Pa! Pa! The moment the two sides met, the long spikes exploded one after another. It was like crushing dry weeds. Zichen's fist was still shining with golden light, and he pressed forward with indomitable will. The two fists collided. Boom! The arena shook, and a strong shockwave spread out in all directions. Outside the arena, some of the people nearby did not even have time to react and were instantly sent flying by the energy. Buzz! The light shone, and the protection around the arena was activated. Ah! The burly man in the arena screamed. His body slid backward and stopped at the edge of the arena. His right arm was already hanging down. It was actually broken. Such a scene caused everyone to be greatly shocked. His opponent, who had a god spirit blood pulse, had his bone broken by Zichen's punch? One should know that no matter what level a god spirit blood pulse was, it had the ability to strengthen the body. A strong body was the basic strength of a god spirit blood pulse. However, no one would have thought that Zichen would break his opponent's arm with just one punch. This was a total defeat for a god spirit blood pulse. You, the burly man looked at Zichen, and his eyes were filled with shock. A descendant of a god spirit, just like this. Zichen's lips curled into a disdainful smile. He took the initiative to move forward, and he still used his fist. The burly man shouted and started to put up a full defense. From the previous punch, he already had a deep understanding of Zichen's strength. Boom! Zichen's second punch landed, and the burly man's defense was instantly shattered. The punch did not slow down, and it landed on his opponent's chest. His opponent's chest immediately caved in, and the crisp sound of bones breaking could be heard. Poof! The burly man coughed up blood, and the blood was mixed with pieces of his organs. This scene completely shocked everyone outside the arena. This was too strong. Farewell, I won't send you off. Zichen's voice was cold, and he threw out the third punch. Stop! Outside the arena, there was a loud shout. Zichen's fist whistled down, and it was not affected. Boom! The third punch. The burly man who came to provoke him was dead. I asked you to stop. Didn't you hear me? Outside the arena, a middle-aged man stared coldly at Zichen. Zichen turned to look at him, since I said it was a life-and-death battle. Why should I stop before the winner is decided? You've already won. Why do you still want to kill him? He has no power to fight back. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth. Zichen said, because he's still alive. Look, I've stopped now. Looking at the other party's sour expression, Zichen curled his lips. What, you're regretting? Can't afford to play? He looked disdainful. If I knew you couldn't afford to play, I wouldn't have come down. After all, I haven't finished my meal. Zichen's indifferent attitude instantly angered the crowd, and they were furious. Kill him. He's too arrogant. We must kill him. Someone go up and take his head. Everyone's eyes were spitting fire, but after seeing Zichen's means, they didn't dare to go up. listening to these clamoring voices. Zichen smiled. Those who want to kill me, come up. I'm in a good mood today. If I let you leave the arena alive, it'll be me, Zichen, being rude. Courting death. A level 6 heavenly Dharma directly jumped out. He couldn't stand Chen's arrogance. He landed on the arena and coldly glanced at Chen. Arrogant! Simply arrogant to the extreme. This is North Desert City, not the lower realm where an ant like you can live. It's not a place where you can behave atrociously. Chen said, You talk too much nonsense. You must die. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen lightly tapped his glabella. Whoosh! The slaughter spirit appeared. At such a close distance, no one could block this attack. Unless they were like Luan Ao, who had an ancient talisman to protect them. Slap! The defense that this level 6 heavenly Dharma hurriedly put up was immediately shattered. Then, the slaughter spirit pierced into the opponent's mind. The terrifying energy contained within instantly extinguished the opponent's life force. Another person dead, clean and neat. The surroundings were silent. Look, I didn't let him leave alive, right? Chen looked at the shocked crowd. I have to do what I say. This is my integrity. Anyone else, feel free to come. You! Someone pointed at Chen, wanting to reprimand him, but did not know what to say. A level 5 heavenly Dharma and a level 6 heavenly Dharma were killed just like that. The shock that this brought to the crowd was too great. Among the crowd that originally clamored, there were also quite a number of heavenly Dharma realms. But who dared to step forward now? Anyone else? If not, I'm going to continue eating. Chen looked around, his tone calm, but when it landed in the ears of the crowd, it made them feel ashamed and angry. Previously, they kept calling him an ant, but they did not expect him to be so strong. Now, Chen deliberately provoked them, but no one dared to accept the challenge. The scene was awkward. Chen, you're really different. You can attract attention wherever you go. Just as those people were at a loss, a hearty laugh sounded from afar. The crowd parted, and a youth walked forward. It was Meng Cheng. Seeing Meng Cheng, the crowd that was in a dilemma, previously seemed to have seen their savior, and became excited again. Young Master Meng Cheng, quickly kill this lower realm ant. That's right. Instead of being an ant in the lower realm, he actually dares to come to North Desert City and behave atrociously. He must be killed. That's right. Kill him now. Meng Cheng was famous and had tyrannical combat strength. In the eyes of the crowd, once he attacked, Chen would definitely die. Who knew that Meng Cheng, who was still smiling, immediately pulled a long face after hearing those voices. What nonsense are you talking about? Chen is my friend. The moment those words came out, it immediately caused an uproar. The reaction it brought was even greater than when Chen killed the two people. Meng Cheng recognized a lower realm and, as a friend? How was that possible? Young Master Meng Cheng, this lower realm and used despicable means to steal the ancient technique fragment back then. How did you become friends with him? Immediately someone asked. The others also looked at Meng Cheng, unable to accept this reality. Don't listen to other people's nonsense. All of Chen's gains were obtained with his own strength. Disperse, all of you disperse. Meng Cheng walked forward and looked at Chen. I just heard that you came to North Desert City, so I hurried over. I didn't expect to cause such a big commotion. Chen smiled faintly. I didn't want to, but there's no other way. There are always some flies that just won't go away. He glanced at Luo, even though the latter had quietly hidden in the crowd at this moment. Meng Cheng smiled slightly. Don't think about those annoying things. Do me the honor and let's have a drink? It's rare that you still remember. Chen smiled and agreed. Thus, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Meng Cheng left with Chen. Chapter 53-58. in the best restaurant in North Desert City. Zichen, Mengqing, and Shifeng sat facing each other. Good wine and dishes were placed in front of them. Zichen, you're really something. Everywhere you go, it's so lively. Mengqing joked. Zichen smiled helplessly. Mengqing suddenly restrained his smile and said, "Let me remind you, you have to be careful of that guy called Leonard." Zichen looked at Mengqing, somewhat puzzled. After all, it was impossible for someone like him to know that clown. People from the lower realm haven't appeared for many years. They've always been legends. Aren't you curious why everyone is so hostile to people from the legends? Mengqing looked at Zichen. Zichen said, "I'm indeed curious. After all, such an incident has never happened in other places. Could it be related to Leonard?" Mengqing nodded. A few days ago, news about people from the lower realm suddenly spread in North Desert City. At that time, I was very curious and intended to investigate. I learned that it was Leonard who was behind it. But before I could continue investigating, my family called everyone back and warned me not to investigate Leonard anymore. Leonard can still affect you? Zichen was even more surprised. Then he turned to look at Shifeng. Wasn't he expelled by the Soul Mage Alliance? Shifeng nodded and said, "That's right. After you left, he was expelled. But not long after, the Alliance recruited him again under the pretext of recruiting talents. Those damn people." Zichen gritted his teeth and said, "No, the Soul Mage Alliance over there shouldn't affect here, right?" Shifeng also nodded. The two were not in the same area at all. Mengqing's family should have no need to fear Leonard, because this was another core. Strictly speaking, the level here was higher than that. I don't know about that. In short, you have to be careful of him. Mengqing said, "The last time I saw him, I saw that he had more than one ancient talisman on him. These things were left behind before the chaos and are extremely precious. Even my family doesn't have many of them. It's even more impossible for them to be brought out and wasted like this." Zichen fell into deep thought. After a while, Zichen asked, "What did he say to make the people here so hostile to the lower realms?" Mengqing explained one by one. According to Luo's words, the lower realm was a place where resources were scarce. In the era before the upheaval, a passage to the upper realm was unintentionally opened. The people from the era before the upheaval treated them as invaders and were full of hostility. It was just that the people of the lower realms would kowtow to anyone they saw, putting on a pitiful appearance and complaining about the dire situation of the lower realms due to the lack of resources. In the era before the great upheaval, the people of the lower realm were pitiful, so they gave them a piece of land to develop. At the same time, he also imparted the cultivation techniques of the immortal spells world to them. Unexpectedly, many years later, these people from the lower realm suddenly retaliated, wanting to take over the immortal spell world. In the end, an extremely long battle broke out. The people from the lower realm were very cunning. They had secretly learned all the immortal techniques of the immortal spell world. From the start of the battle, they had the upper hand against the immortal spell world. Just as the immortal spell world was about to be defeated, powerful existences appeared one after another. Mengqing glanced at Zichen. Zichen was expressionless. The ones who appeared were the immortals. They were the guardian deities of the immortal spell world. They had always been silently protecting this world, never showing themselves unless the immortal spell world was in danger. When the immortals appeared and joined the battle, the situation immediately changed. All the people from the lower realm either died or fled. In the end, the teleportation platform was sealed again, and the people from the lower realm could no longer come up. However, the immortals were worried that the people from the lower realm would make a comeback, so they left the bloodline of the immortals in this world to deal with the people from the lower realm. The story came to an end here. This was not the first time Shifeng had heard of it, but when he thought of the scene of the immortals turning the situation around, he was still shocked. He tilted his head and looked at Zichen. From the first time he met Zichen, the two of them had a conflict. After that, they met again and again. It seemed like others were always finding trouble with Zichen. Moreover, no matter how he looked at Zichen, he did not look like the evil people from the lower realm in the story. That's it. Hearing that Meng Qing had stopped talking, Zichen came back to his senses. Meng Qing nodded and said, "Regarding this story, I went back and did some research. I also asked some elders, but they did not seem to know. There was no information about it in the family either." Zichen smiled coldly. It's normal that there is no information. It would be strange if there was any information about this kind of made-up story. Shifeng said, "Are these all fake?" Zichen said, "Maybe the part where the immortals appeared at the end is true." Zichen recalled the scene he saw in the divine rune race. The one who could destroy this race should be the so-called immortals. Leonard's story was actually half true and half false. Shifeng was confused. He did not understand Zichen's words. Zichen collected his thoughts and said, "This story came from Leonard." Meng Qing nodded. Other than him, no one else told it. However, after him, everyone else told it and believed it. I see. Of course, Zichen did not believe that a fool like Leonard could tell such a story. Then, it could only be the Magic Soul Alliance. Since they were targeting him, it seemed that the Magic Soul Alliance did not only destroy the divine rune race. That guy who died said that he was a descendant of the immortals. How do you classify the descendants of the immortals? Zichen asked. About that, Meng Qing heard and laughed. This is their own story. It can't be trusted at all. What do you mean? Among them, most of them obtained a drop of immortal's blood. After refining it, their bodies underwent some changes, and they called themselves descendants of the immortals. Meng Qing shook his head and said, "This story is ridiculous. The true descendants of the immortals are those who have a pure bloodline. That Mo Li from the Mo family, strictly speaking, does not count." Zichen said, "In that case, there is really immortal's blood in this event." Many people knew about this rumor, so Meng Qing did not hide it. That's right, there is such a thing. There was a hint of excitement in Shifeng's eyes. This time, we will definitely gain something. Zichen, your battle strength is already strong. Once you obtain the immortal's blood and refine it, your battle strength will definitely be stronger. Meng Qing nodded and said, "That's right. You must not miss this event. However, I must remind you that there are different types of immortal's blood. The most ordinary immortal's blood can only strengthen the physical body. Mid-level immortal's blood can increase one's strength. High-level immortal's blood can increase one's soul power." Speaking of this, Meng Qing's expression became serious. The top-level immortal's blood contains elemental power. They can change the attribute of the person who refined it. The top-level immortal's blood contains inheritances. Once you obtain it, you can establish a family. Seeing the strange light in Zichen's eyes, Meng Qing continued, "For example, the Titan bloodline in Titan City. The legend is true." Shifeng exclaimed. Zichen's eyes also flashed with shock. He was also looking forward to the immortal's blood. However, there was still a problem. Zichen said, "But where should I go to obtain the qualification?" "Me. My family has a quota. It's ready-made." Meng Qing smiled. "However, you have to." Before Meng Qing finished speaking, his smile suddenly faded. Then he started laughing again. Zichen asked, "What do I have to pay?" Obviously, this quota was not easy to obtain. Meng Qing said, "You have to pay today's bill." Ah! Zichen was stunned. Shifeng was also dumbfounded. "That's it." "Meng Qing, you are too sneaky. If you don't want a treat, just say so. Why do you have to do this?" At this moment, laughter came from downstairs. A group of 4 people walked up. It was Yuan Kuei and the other 3. There were not enough seats. The 3 of them immediately changed tables. This time, Meng Qing introduced the 4 people seriously. Yuan Kuei was obviously the leader. The other 3 people were respectively Ben Yuanxi, Juhong and Wang Ji. They were all from Mabe City. Furthermore, they all had great backgrounds. After getting to know each other, the few people clinked a few glasses of wine first. Then Wang Ji said with a smile, "Meng Cheng, you are really cunning. In order to not pay the bill, you actually came up with such a method." Meng Cheng said, "Why? You guys have an opinion?" Looking at Wang Ji wanting to say something, Meng Cheng said again, "All right, stop. Want to take advantage? Line up at the back." Everyone laughed and joked. Time passed quickly. While at this moment Mabe City was in an uproar. They were filled with righteous indignation, facing a lower realm and together with a common enemy. But the young masters in Mabe City ate and drank with the other party and made friends. How could they take this lying down? This lower realm and use God knows what sorcery to actually make friends with several young masters. It might be the same as back then, kneeling and acting pitiful. If there is a chance, we must kill him. Everyone's anger was difficult to suppress, yet none of them could beat Ziqin. Luo Ao originally stayed in the crowd, preparing to add a few more flames. Suddenly, he received a rumor and quietly left. Arriving at a mansion, Luo Ao walked in and saw an old man. "Sir." Luo Ao immediately bowed to the other party. "How is it?" The old man looked at him. "Although I succeeded in angering them, Ziqin's battle prowess is very strong. He killed 2 heavenly laws in a row. The others were so scared that they did not dare to make a move." Luo Ao was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Those young masters are too much. They actually admitted that Ziqin is their friend in public. If I did not deliberately add a few more flames in the dark, the atmosphere that was created with great difficulty would have disappeared because of them. Regarding this matter, I will make a trip to those families and give them a warning." The old man said, "Is there still a chance to kill him now?" Luo Ao shook his head and said, "Impossible. No one dares to challenge Ziqin anymore." The old man said, "Then go to Mabe City and kill him. I will arrange for some people to go with you. Of course, if those families are willing to help, it would be best." "Yes." Luo Ao took his leave. At the same time, Ziqin's side also left. The 5 of them returned to their families. Ziqin followed Shifeng back to the inn. As for the quota token, Ziqin had already obtained it from Meng Cheng. It was given for free, and he did not pay the bill. Shifeng also obtained one because he was a dragon-seeking master. It would be of great use in the future. The 5 of them separated halfway and walked to an empty street. Meng Cheng suddenly asked, "Why did you stop me?" His original intention was not to let Ziqin treat him, but to let Ziqin be a guest of the family. However, before he could say anything, he was stopped by a voice. The patriarch said that Ziqin is not to be associated with the family for the time being. A voice sounded in the dark. Chapter 53-59. When an old man came to visit, the Meng family did not dare to neglect him. The patriarch personally came out to welcome him. When Meng Cheng returned, the old man just happened to leave. The 2 met at the door. They brushed past each other. After entering the family, Meng Cheng went to ask the patriarch about this matter. The person who came is a high-level member of the Soul Law Alliance. He came directly from the headquarters. Our Meng family naturally can't offend him. Recalling the previous conversation, the other party's tone was tough, almost in a commanding tone. Although the Meng family's patriarch was uncomfortable, he did not dare to go too far, even if he was unhappy with the other party. As for Ziqin's side, he did not dare to offend them. An existence that could kill an immortal. How terrifying was that? Not to mention the Meng family. Even the entire North Desert City combined would not be enough to be smashed by that person. Therefore, he did not dare to offend either side and could only remain neutral. He did not want to get involved. "Go and tell Ziqin that the event will be brought forward." Meng Cheng asked, "That's it?" "Yes, that's it. tell him word for word. Meng Cheng returned and came to the inn to tell Zichen the latest news. Zichen asked, "Has this happened before?" Meng Cheng shook his head. Zichen thanked him, and Meng Cheng left. Not long after, Ben Yuan Si, Zhu Hong, Wang Ji, and Yuan Kuei also came one after another to tell Zichen that the event would be brought forward. It was abnormal for the event to be brought forward. It was even more abnormal for the 5 of them to come one after another to remind him. Zichen could not help but suspect Leonard. It's a good thing that the event is being brought forward. Shifeng said, in the past, the event would only be opened when the news spread and all the experts arrived. At that time, the competition would naturally be fierce. This time it's opened early and there are fewer experts. It's actually beneficial for us. Zichen asked, "How's the overall strength of the Soul Law Alliance? Compared to North Desert City, what advantages does it have?" "Which part are you referring to?" Shifeng asked. "What are the parts? The branch you went to before belongs to a large force. They have the final say in that area. But compared to North Desert City, it's really not enough. Any random family here can flatten that branch." Shifeng said, "But if you want to talk about the strength of the Alliance headquarters, then all the big families in North Desert City together are not enough to carry the shoes of the headquarters." Zichen's expression changed slightly. "So you're saying that the headquarters of the Dharma Spirit Alliance is an absolute power in this wasteland? It's the best." Shifeng said, "In this wasteland, there are a total of 3 famous alliances. Among them, the Soul Law Alliance is ranked first, the Martial Arts Alliance is ranked second, and the Pure Land Alliance is ranked third. The former was a powerful force that could be considered one of the most powerful forces in the entire wasteland. The Martial Arts Alliance is relatively mysterious, and its disciples are rarely seen. But every one of them is a powerhouse with a core of the true body. They are considered elites among elites. Compared to the previous 2 alliances with a long history, the Pure Land Alliance is a rising star. Although its scope is wider, it is mixed with good and bad people. It is not outstanding. However, there are rumors that the leader of the Pure Land Alliance has unparalleled combat strength and can suppress the top powerhouses of the other 2 alliances. That is why it is ranked third." After listening to Shifeng's explanation, Zichen also understood why the meeting was held in advance. It must be the people from the headquarters of the Soul Law Alliance that pressured the 5 families. In that case, he had to be careful when he entered the meeting grounds. After Shifeng left, Zichen began to cultivate. He wanted to be able to advance to the next realm in a short time. However, what Zichen did not expect was that the meeting would begin in just 5 days. The time was so short that it exceeded everyone's expectations. Zichen came to the square where all the participants were gathered. As soon as Zichen arrived, he felt a cold, murderous intent landing on him. These murderous intents came from all directions. It could be said that they came from everyone. This caused absolute public anger. Shifeng shrunk his head and said telepathically, "Looking at this situation, Leo should have been telling a lot of stories these days." Shifeng guessed correctly. Leo had told a lot of stories recently. Otherwise, just the fact that Zichen was a friend of those young masters was enough to eliminate the inexplicable hatred of everyone. Zichen was expressionless, but his soul power had already extended out. He found Leo. If he guessed correctly, it must be the headquarters of the Soul Law Alliance that made a move this time. The meeting started earlier, and everyone entered earlier. Their goal was very simple, which was to kill him. Sure enough, there were a few people standing next to Leo. Although they deliberately suppressed their auras, Zichen could still feel their powerful soul power. Without guessing, he knew that those few were all Soul Law Alliance. "Senior brother, that guy is Zichen, our target this time." Leo stood in the crowd. After seeing Zichen, he immediately lowered his voice. There were 5 people standing beside Leo. The reason why they waited 5 days for the meeting to start was that these 5 people had just arrived in North Desert City. The leader swept a glance at Zichen and said indifferently, "I can't see anything special about him." Leo said his heart is black. When he kills, he doesn't care at all. Also, senior brothers, you must be careful. This guy's combat strength is not bad, and he used despicable means to snatch my imitation world extermination bell. Don't worry, he won't chat. After killing him this time, I'll return the world extermination bell to you. Then Leo will thank senior brother in advance. Suddenly, ripples surged out in front of them. A high platform appeared out of thin air. The next moment, there was one more person on the high platform. This person came from Yuan Kuei's family and was also the person in charge of this meeting. His gaze swept across the surroundings, taking in everyone's faces. Everyone, North Desert City's meeting starts now. I hope that everyone will be able to gain something and return safely. Actually, there were a lot of things to say. After all, this was a rare opportunity. Maybe the few big families could find some powerful guests or consecrators from these people. But this time there was a reason for this. They were not in the mood at all. After a simple opening speech, they did not waste any more time. The person waved his hand, and a rippling light circle appeared on the high platform behind him. This is the North Desert region. The so-called grand meeting is right behind us. After saying that, the person got off the platform decisively. This made many people stunned. Some of them had participated in the previous meeting. Obviously, this time was different. Whether it was the number of people or the atmosphere, it was not as good as last time. However, after a brief moment of astonishment, the people near the high platform reacted. They immediately took out their tokens and jumped onto the high platform. The token had their names and their power. After it was activated, it formed a layer of protection. Swish! The next moment, the token wrapped the person and entered the passage. At this moment, the meeting began. Zichen was not in a hurry. He stood aside and watched silently. Previously, his sole power not only sensed Leo, but also Mengcheng and the others. They did not gather together today. Instead, they stood beside their own family members. There were many experts. After seeing Zichen, they did not come over to greet him as if he was a stranger. Should we go in? Shifeng seemed to be a little impatient. Zichen said, "Let's wait. After all, other people paid a great price to get their tokens. Ours is a gift." This time the tokens were jointly issued by the 5 major families. If you want to get it, you naturally have to pay a certain price. It could be resources as compensation or some kind of promise to worship the family for thousands of years. The light flickered and the crowd was decreasing. Most of the people glanced at Zichen fiercely after entering, giving him a warning look. Leo and the others did not enter at this moment. Leo's gaze occasionally looked at Zichen. The people of the 5 major families were still outside. The people were getting fewer and fewer, and the people of the 5 major families did not intend to move for the time being. Moreover, many people were watching him from the side. It seemed that if he did not go in, no one would go in. Zichen said, "Let's go." As he moved, those who did not move before also moved at this moment. These guys! Shifeng's eyes were slightly cold. Zichen, on the other hand, smiled. "It's a waste not to take something that is delivered to my doorstep." He took out the tokens and activated them, and the 2 of them entered the passage at the same time. Humph! Next is to catch a turtle in a jar. The middle-aged man next to Leo snorted coldly and walked straight ahead. With the help of the senior brothers, Zichen, this dog will definitely die this time. Luo and the others also followed suit. After the few of them entered, the people from the 5 great clans began to move. They were the last to enter. This is the North Desert region? Zichen looked around at the empty space around him with a stunned expression. There was nothing here. There was an endless stretch of flat land. There were no flowers, grass, or mountain rocks. Shifeng said, The North Desert region is made up of countless small worlds. The opportunities inside are different from each other. Otherwise, why would I come here? Let's go. It's time for me to show my prowess. As soon as he finished speaking, a sharp aura suddenly appeared. A sword light appeared from the darkness and went straight for Zi-Chen's back. Facing such a level of sneak attack, Zi-Chen didn't even have to turn around. The slaughter spirit appeared. Like a bolt of lightning, he turned around in an instant, accompanied by a poof sound. The sword light fell to the ground. A person appeared and landed on the ground. There was a bloody mark in between his eyebrows. His soul had already been destroyed. This was a level 4 heavenly Dharma expert who was good at hiding and killing, but he was killed by Zi-Chen in an instant. Following that, more and more existences began to appear. When they saw Zi-Chen, cold killing intent appeared in their eyes. Lower realm ant. Someone shouted, "Kill him!" Shouts sounded from all around, and everyone rushed towards Zi-Chen. Zi-Chen snorted, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. Since they were here to die, he naturally wouldn't reject them. At this moment, Shifeng suddenly reached out and grabbed Zi-Chen. The next moment, he stretched out his hand and drew in front of him. A strange power appeared from his fingertips. Space was cut open by his finger. He pulled Zi-Chen into the crack. It was also at this time that the entire North Desert City suddenly began to shake without warning. The world shook violently and space distorted. This city that had been established for more than 1,000,000 years seemed to be about to collapse. Not good. The God Seal has been inexplicably touched. Chapter 5360. North Desert City had been established for more than 1,000,000 years. In the beginning, they had paid a huge price to invite countless masters of magic formations to build a city that stood tall on the wasteland. Over the years, North Desert City had encountered several crises, but no one had been able to shake the city in the slightest. Until today, North Desert City began to shake without warning. Like a huge earthquake, it began to shake violently. The light of arrays appeared in all directions of North Desert City, shooting into the sky and converging in the air, forming a huge array. The city's protective array had awakened on its own. But even though the city was protected by a cocoon of light, it still shook uncontrollably. The people in the city looked around in confusion. Was there an invasion? The experts of the 5 great families who were in seclusion appeared one after another. They came to the core area and looked at the rioting array core. They began to use all their energy to suppress the core's rioting. For many years, the God Seal has been silent. Why would it be activated today? An old voice came from the Yuan family. The God Seal has always been mysterious. As for why it was activated, who knows? Another voice came from the Meng family. Could it be that someone has found a way to break the seal? Impossible. For so many years, we have studied it for generations, but we have no clue at all. How could it be possible with these heavenly laws? The sounds of discussion continued, but in such a large city, only a few people could hear them. It's impossible for ordinary people, but what if the Spirit Mage Alliance made a move? Don't forget, they contributed a lot when building the city. Naturally, they know some secrets. As this voice sounded, the few great families immediately fell silent. The Spirit Mage Alliance had a deep foundation and a long history. Perhaps they had really solved the secret of the God Seal. Yes, it disappeared. Suddenly, the tremors disappeared, and the God Seal returned to normal. This stunned everyone again, and they were very puzzled. An old man muttered, "Could it be that the God Seal was activated because it sensed something?" Send the message, and be careful of those with Spirit Mage Alliance. Shifeng pulled Zi-Chen into the crack. Behind the crack was an empty space. My luck is a little bad. Shifeng swept his gaze across the empty space around him. He felt somewhat regretful. Zi-Chen scanned the area with his soul power, but found nothing. At this moment, Zichen suddenly felt a strange calling in his knowledge sea. The summoning was coming from the front. Zichen's expression changed slightly as he looked at Shifeng. What happened? Shifeng noticed Zichen's strange expression and said, "Are you blaming me for stopping you? We came here to find opportunities, not to kill. Don't worry. Although I didn't gain anything here, I'm confident that I can." "Hey, what are you doing?" Zichen continued walking forward, ignoring Shifeng's words. Shifeng chased after him, tilting his head to look at Zichen. "You're angry just because of this? I don't think so, right?" Zichen glanced at Shifeng before continuing forward. After walking for another 1,000 feet, he suddenly stopped. He turned his head and looked to the right. This time, there was some doubt in his eyes. He walked to the right. After walking for a while, he began to turn left again. Shifeng had been following him previously. When he realized that Zichen wasn't really angry and seemed to be looking for something, he stopped. He looked at Zichen, who was pacing back and forth aimlessly. After a while, Zichen finally stopped. He looked at Shifeng, not far away. "Didn't you feel it?" "What?" Shifeng asked. "A kind of summoning. It's nearby." Shifeng shook his head. "I can't feel anything." Looking at Zichen's puzzled expression, Shifeng continued, "Here, I only believe in my own ability. I don't believe in anything else." "What do you mean?" "As you said, the summoning might really exist, but there are many layers of space here. Even if there's an opportunity, it's useless if you can't find a way. Moreover, it might be some kind of illusion and not a real summoning." Shifeng smiled. "So, in this place, I only believe in my own professional ability." Zichen frowned. He didn't think that this was an illusion. His soul power grade wasn't low. Ordinary illusions couldn't affect him at all. Swoosh! Suddenly, the space was forcefully torn open, and a person fell from the sky. The moment he landed, he saw Zichen and Shifeng. He immediately shouted excitedly, "That ant from the lower world, I found him. He's right here." The crack in the sky hadn't disappeared yet. After hearing the other party's words, another surge of energy appeared and landed on the fissure. Chi! The crack was forcefully torn open, and another person fell from above. "Ant from the lower world, you're really here." Murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Zichen glanced at him indifferently, then sat cross-legged on the ground. On the crack, more people appeared one after another. Their purpose was the same, and that was to kill Zichen. "You didn't run when you saw us. Instead, you sat here and pretended to be mysterious." One of them sneered and rushed forward. "Go, let's kill him together." The others immediately followed closely, and a tyrannical aura surged. Zichen, who was sitting cross-legged, closed his eyes. His soul power had already spread out, covering every corner of this space. Buzz! His soul power surged, and the massacre spirit appeared. It first circled around Zichen, then turned into a stream of light and moved forward. Shifeng stood beside Zichen. At such a close distance, he felt the sharpness and power of the massacre spirit. Swoosh! A sharp whistling sound rang out. A level 4 heaven realm cultivator stopped. There was an additional line of blood between his eyebrows. He stood there, and the surging energy around him quickly dissipated. He died before he could react. Puff! Puff! The massacre spirit was still moving forward. Wherever it passed, no one could stop it. Almost all of them died from a hole in their eyebrows. These people were all in the heaven realm. The weakest was level 3 heaven realm, and the strongest was level 5 heaven realm. But in front of Zichen's massacre spirit, they couldn't fight back at all. No, it wasn't that they couldn't fight back, but that they couldn't get close to Zichen at all. The place where Zichen sat was like the core of this space. No one could get close to him. Go to hell! One of them held a long saber and slashed through the air. The saber light came from the sky, leaving a deep mark in the air wherever it passed. This slash seemed to want to split Zichen into two. Puff! However, before the saber light could get close, the massacre spirit approached the other party and instantly pierced through his glabella. Without its owner, the saber light could no longer condense. When it was 300 feet away from Zichen, it directly dissipated. Kill the lower realm ant. Go to hell, ant. One heaven realm cultivator after another fell, but other people appeared. They shouted, advancing dauntlessly, displaying their strongest strength and attacking Zichen. All kinds of attacks appeared, dazzling one's eyes. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been frightened. Zichen sat there motionlessly. He didn't even open his eyes. Puff! 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 The slaughter spirit continued to flash, reaping one life after another. Shifeng stood there, his eyelids twitching. These were all living beings, but they died just like that. One dared to charge, and the other dared to kill. Isn't it good to be alive? Looking at those people who fell to the ground dead, Shifeng shook his head and smiled bitterly. His mood was indescribably complicated. Is it worth it to give up their lives for a story? He felt that it was not worth it for these people who died. Don't just stand there. Hurry up and pick up the spoils. Suddenly, a voice entered Shifeng's mind. Shifeng was stunned. This was Zichen's voice. He looked at Zichen in surprise, whose eyes were closed. Was he asking him to take advantage of the situation? Hurry up, or the powerful ones will come. Zichen urged again. When he was fighting with all his strength, he was still distracted by the spoils of war. Shifeng looked around. Many corpses were scattered there. Because this was a space, everyone's corpses did not turn into bones. He saw a bloody scene, and now Zichen actually wanted him to clean up the battlefield. I'm a dragon-seeking master after all. My status is noble. You, Shifeng was still muttering. If you don't want to become a corpse, hurry up. Zichen's voice became much sterner. Sigh. Shifeng sighed and could only do as he was told. Swoosh. He moved forward at a very fast speed, because since he had helped he should do his best. He stepped forward and took away the spirit rings of those people one by one. Inside were the lifetime wealth of these heavenly laws, so it was naturally precious. Idiot, there are also energy crystals and their weapons. They are all good things. Don't waste them. Zichen transmitted his voice again. Shifeng could only turn back and take the weapons and heavenly law crystals. At this moment, he noticed that a few people who landed did not attack Zichen. Instead, they rushed towards the corpses. It was obvious that they were here for the spoils of war. However, they died even faster, because these spoils of war had long been regarded as his by Zichen. These people wanted to snatch them, but they could only die, since someone had started to snatch them. Shifeng naturally had to work harder. He displayed his fastest speed and moved between the corpses one after another. Suddenly, Zichen's voice sounded. Let's go. Shifeng was stunned. Why were they leaving again? He had not picked up all of them yet. There was still a third of them. Let's go. Zichen's voice sounded again. This time he was already beside him. So fast! Shifeng was shocked again. At this moment, a terrifying power suddenly descended from above. This space seemed to be about to collapse. A terrifying energy poured down, charging towards Zichen. In Shifeng's perception, the sky seemed to be about to collapse. Zichen pulled Shifeng and quickly retreated. And this energy seemed to have a consciousness, chasing after the two of them. Shifeng looked forward and saw a few people descending from above. Among them was Luaneo. Shifeng, I treat you as a brother, but you follow that lowly ant Zichen. You really disappoint me. Luaneo also saw Shifeng. The moment the two of them looked at each other, Luaneo's voice sounded. Boom! The moment the energy caught up to them, Zi-chan used his fist to shatter the space and flashed out. He escaped. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.